Wow, wowie. Hey, my name is Neil Patterson. I'm a guy, and I just had a really intensely amazing conversation with Mr. Israel Joseph. He was in the band Bad Brains. He was in a band called Fireburn, and he's got a new solo album out called Meltdown that he wrote during the quarantine. And I remember I was on tour with HR of Bad Brains as his guitar player, and I met Israel, who ended up singing with HR, and we were playing these songs, and he was super nice dude with great energy and a great voice and dancing around, and we were having a fucking blast playing these songs. And at one point, there was a lot of people on stage. I remember we were in Huntington Beach, and we were playing. And it was electric, because it's one thing, you have a vocalist, you have a guitar player, bass player, drummer, but when you add more vocals, when you add more percussion, when you add more guitar, it just is layers upon layers. And Israel, wow, what a passionate, enlightening, and lovely conversation that's really making me think differently about a whole lot of shit. And it's a long convo, so let's get into it. So I'm not going to waste any more time with this intro, but here I am with Israel Joseph, formerly of Bad Brains, formerly of Fireburn, and solo artist, solo musician, punk rocker, and intelligent dude, and deep thinker. So let's get the fuck into it. This is SUPcast. This is my podcast. Let's fucking go. All right.
But realistically, what it really comes down to is that the laws we use to govern our society come out of the scriptures. They come out of Hammurabi's law, 1,000 years before Moses, and then out of Tutmosis' law on how to govern, and then Moses' law in the Bible. So a lot of what we're reading about. So we'll talk about all that, man. That's the reason why it's still there, because we can't have a society and this is okay, people might be like, I'm going to stone Israel, I hate him. But a lot of what we call what we take for granted in our society, we wake up and we're safe and we know that people won't hurt us because there's not only the law, but there's a certain sensibility about people. A lot of that happened through a horrific history that had a good message. Weird, huh? But yeah. It was a horrific history with a good message, and the good message prevailed over the horrific history. And the good message isn't there naturally in mankind. So when a baby's born, you don't have a baby just coming out being oh yeah, I know how to be good, and I know I won't steal and won't take my brother's candy or whatever. Oh no, it goes blank. What?
No, we're good.
Okay. So it doesn't happen that way. You have to teach a baby these things, right? So there was a time when mankind in general wasn't like that. We were nice to each other and nice to maybe a few people outside our families, but most of the people outside our families were dude, I don't know who those were. They come over here, I'll kill them. And it's still kind of like that today, but less. And that's because we have this overarching, overwhelming influence from that historic, what people call religion, because there was law in there. That is the divine part of religion, that there's law. It's not the stories. The stories are stories about people who followed the law and didn't follow the law, what happened, whatever. It's also stories about astrology mixed in with those things. But really, the law that says, hey, man, it's not cool for you to kill someone or take their wife and rape them or to keep money from the poor or keep the, homeless, unhoused, all of those things govern us. So The reason they keep it in the schools is because, and I'm not agreeing with it or not, but I'm just saying that it has had such an overwhelming effect on our society that we feel it's part of our society. We feel like, oh yeah, this is part of who we are. We can't exist without it. So we might as well teach the kids from a young age, don't kill, don't cheat, don't steal. Because realistically, if we don't, then where else does that come from? You know, most parents, even when you do teach them, they're not teaching the kids that. So where do we pull that from then? There is nowhere in the human psyche that says don't lie. The minute something happens, you're like, no, I didn't do it, you know? And like,
yeah.
It's right. So unless you really taught this, and this is an external power. So it's kind of left in the school for that reason. But I hear what you're saying. No religion should have a predominance. It should just more be about, look, this is just good because it's good law. It doesn't matter if you worship who you worship. It's just good law. It's just good stuff to do. Don't kill. Don't steal. You know, house the homeless. You know, it's just good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I just started rolling for anyone who's just listening to that. I have Israel Joseph here, and I was just talking to him about how when I was in high school, we were singing a lot of like Christian hymnals in the choir and whatnot, and how as much as they say religion isn't in the schools, it certainly was. We were singing a lot about Israel and a lot about Jesus, and it's wild to think. I didn't really realize it when it was happening, but it like a lot of that religion was being indoctrinated upon us. But I also,
like I was saying, it's the principles and values, and also there's, man, it goes deeper than that. I don't want to get too controversial, but there's branches of that's happening too. It's an indoctrination about the way God looks, right?
Like white Jesus.
And it's also
white Jesus,
right?
Yeah.
Well, in certain parts of the world, he's not white. Like in Europe, he's absolutely brown.
Exactly.
With curly hair.
Okay.
And so it's an indoctrination for different purposes all over the world about the way God looks. And then they know, now this is really going to raise some ears, but they know, in fact, that what they're talking about most of the time in these ancient religions is not a man at all, but a Christos, understanding, a Christus, a crystallization, you understand? A crystallization of a thought, a Christus that is a thought, and the physical force is not a man, but the sun. And this is what most of the ancient teachings and heroes and religions are based on, is the sun above our heads, and the Christos, the crystallization of its power in us to have life and therefore to produce knowledge. And this is what I just said is one of the deepest understandings that you're going to get about religion in general. All of it is surface level. The real deal is that you're looking at two groups. One is worshiping the creator of the sun, and one is worshiping the sun itself. Both are worshiping gods, as they say, and one is saying the sun is the God, and it gives light, and the light crystallizes in us as the Christ, and we speak the energy. And the other one is saying God gives it directly to us, and in order to get it, we must behave a certain way. And then there's some down the middle that say, yes, both of you are right. We're supposed to be doing both things, like checking it both. So,
yeah, and that's wild.
So that's really it. Yeah, and it's covering a lot. It's accomplishing a lot, but it's actually showing you that society is being steered, whether for good or bad. We don't know. Maybe man left on his own would be a wild beast. Maybe he would be killing just for the sake of it. Maybe the experiment of the Wild West was that. Maybe it was an experiment. Let's just leave it alone, see what happens. And it went crazy, right? So you need someone to take the steering wheel and go, do, guys, settle down. You know, we know where we're going because we've studied the map. And the map is astrology and history and, alchemy and philosophy. The map is all that stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, we're starting off kind of heavy here. but that's good. That's good. I mean, essentially the reason I started this podcast, well, my buddy said it would be a good idea But ultimately, what I'm finding is it's providing me with perspective on things I don't understand that well. And that's why through the course of this conversation, I'm probably going to ask you a lot of dumb questions, but it's because I want to know stuff. As simple as that.
Great. And I'm glad, man. It's cool.
Yeah,
I'm definitely down to talk about it. When I go too far afield, just press the pause button. But I'm happy to talk about anything, man. It's always good to share, and then have the person you share with others, and then we all become one, man. That's how it's all. When we understand what this is really all about, we're gonna be one. When we really understand that this is about the sun and the creator of the sun, then we're gonna drop all that phony religion stuff, and we're just gonna be dealing with the creator and the life giver. And that means we're all children, right? That makes us all equal, right? Because we're all under the sun, right? It's like the actual sun, I mean. And did you know the German word for sun is S-O-N? The sun in the sky is S-O-N. And only when it came to England did your boy then begin to be called the S-U-N, and the S-O-N was then the sun. But in Germany, the Germanic has a very strong root in the S-O-N. It's the same thing, because he was the light of your life. The sun was the light of your life, and he was the sun. Yeah. Yes. And the U is actually the movement. So when the English put the U in, it was still the sun. It was traveling. The sun is traveling. I'll get into that a little bit. I'll tell you about that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Definitely. I was my father's son, but I don't know if I was the light of his life. But
me neither. Believe me.
But we don't need to go in that. Everyone who listens to my podcast has heard all them stories anyway.
That's right.
But so you're in LA, right? You're in Hollywood.
I'm in Los Angeles, yeah. Good old LA. Fun town.
Are you a native? Like a West Coast native?
No, I was born in the Caribbean, right?
No idea.
I was born in the Caribbean, and I came here when I was 8 years old. My mother had a huge connection with America. She worked for the embassy. It was like a whole thing. Anyway, I'm not going to get it all right. We came to America when I was 8. I moved to New York, and I grew up in New York. I'm a naturalized citizen, and I've been here my whole life, really, basically. I grew up in New York, and I came to LA 18 years ago now, right after 9/11.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What made you decide to leave New York? Was it because of 9/11?
Partially, yeah. I mean, to be perfectly honest, the city changed a lot. I wasn't, suddenly, everything, I'll choose my words carefully. Everything went quiet suddenly, and got real serious. And a town that I had grown up in that was partying and making some of the greatest music, and generally everyone that was separated in the other boroughs gathered all together downtown in the Village in Washington Square Park. And if you were really rough, you went down to Tompkins Square Park, of course. But that all went away within 6 months. It was all like a vacuum cleaner had come in and just went through the whole of downtown and sucked it all up. Everything closed down. And even before it really got to the end, I saw it coming, and I said, well, I need a break from this. I don't want to be, he was going to the subway and he had to be searched. And I remember one day was like, all right. Yeah, man, there were dudes on the corner with like guns, like standing there, like airplane, F-16s flying over.
Holy shit.
Everyone was really tripped out and angry and like really freaking out. And I was angry too, but I just felt bad because I was a part of the city in a funky way. We were partying, we were getting down, making music, and it all went away. And so I was like, I just wanted a break, really. It was just for a break. I wasn't leaving New York. I was just like, I'll go to LA. Actually, funniest thing, I was watching Discovery Channel, and like some people were in the Emerald Triangle up north using a lot of cannabis, and they had just banned marijuana in the city because of 9/11.
Oh,
and I was like, I'm going to LA. Yeah, that's what happened. They like banned cannabis, and I was like, oh no. They're like 5 years just for a seed. I was like, okay, I'm going. So I went to LA as a cannabis refugee. Yeah. And
that's good. That's good. That's
what
funny,
I called
man.
myself. I was like, I'm a cannabis refugee. And man.
Nice.
Cannabis refugee. And then maybe I'll remake the old song, Don't Want to Live Like a Refugee, a Cannabis Refugee.
Yeah, don't want a cannabis refugee.
Cannabis refugee. No, but I came over here, and I came here for 2 months just to kick around, just to, get away. And bro, this is the best place ever. I was like, I've been to LA a few times, but this is the best. I came here and I was like down in Seal Beach for about 3 weeks. I spent time with a friend, and I came up here to Venice Beach one Saturday in 2002. So, it was like off the hook. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, what's going on here? This is crazy. And she was like, yeah, this is Venice Beach. I was like, is that a hostel? I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, I'm going to stay here for a few days, this is nuts. And then I was doing music, but then I ended up getting a job. And that was it. I just been in LA since 18 years now. So crazy, huh?
Has it been the same job the whole time?
No.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say.
Oh my God. The first job I got, I came here to get away, but independent artist style, right? And the first job I got, you'll never believe it. I just walked around, walking into different stores, oh, you guys, I didn't even get a professional job. I got a job. I was like, you guys looking for help? It's a professional job. You know what I mean? I didn't go I didn't have the ability anyway to get a office job or something, right? So I got a job in a store just by walking around, and I got a job. You'll never believe it, selling jewelry of all things.
Yeah,
but not really high end stuff where you have to wear a suit to go to work.
Yeah.
Just mid range, precious stones, and that was it, man. I kept that for 3 years. And I did music. I just did music. That was all I did. And then as soon as people let me tell you who really helped me, man. One day I was sitting on the promenade in 2002, and I was playing on the promenade. My guitar was busking and singing Bob Marley and all these other songs at the top of my lungs, man. I was just singing, having a great time. People loved it. They would gather around. They're like, yeah, can you sing Is This Love? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, okay. Dude, dance with their kids. And one day I'm singing, bro, and I got my eyes closed. You know how you close your eyes, whatever I do. And I open it up, and guess who's standing there in 2002? Guess who's standing there just with this big smile on his face?
No idea.
Norwood.
Oh, yeah.
Norwood. He's on the 3rd Street.
Yeah.
He's like, what's up, bro? And I'm like, yo. It's 15 years since I'd seen him, So we connected, and that changed everything. That brought me back into a connection with music, a deeper connection, and that's what changed everything. When I saw Norwood that day on the promenade, that he goes, "What have you been doing?" I'm like, "Bro, the '90s were crazy." The rest.
That's funny.
My head, I cracked my head. I don't know. The '90s were crazy, but then I was like, "Yeah, I'm still doing music," And he's like, "Great." So we started hanging out again because we were, we hung out a lot when we were in the early 90s. It was great. We went on tour. It was we had a great time. The minute we met, all Fishbone and me, we were total friends already. It was great. But I fell off in the 90s. I had some rough times. Not drugs or anything. Just it was tough. I can't explain, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster. You go ups and downs, and sometimes you're in that canyon, that lull. I feel you, man. I have one of those every couple of years. But Norwood's the whole reason I'm out here. Even though I'm taking off in a couple months, I'm gonna go spend some time where I'm from in the Detroit area, and try to ride this COVID thing out because my girlfriend and I we're pretty much lighting money on fire, and we don't have much of an income right now. So we're gonna go home and hang out with my mom for a minute and see what happens. But yeah, Norwood is. Meeting Norwood changed my life as well. you reconnected with him, but when I actually like started working with him is when everything opened up for me. And I wouldn't be playing with HR last year, and then we just met by chance because you came to do some guest vocals with HR, and then next thing I know, we're jamming, and it was fucking dope. That was awesome.
That was a great show, man. We had so much fun, and it was really alive. I love the live energy, man. I love playing live in front of an audience where you can be creative. Most of the stuff I did that night was all unrehearsed, all freestyle. So I like it because it just gives you that chance to explore at least that part of it for me that night. What I was doing at that particular moment on those shows gave me a chance to I see it more like freestyling to me is like jazz. You know, when the instrumentalist steps up, right? You know, the saxophonist plays and he steps back and the trumpetist plays and then like steps back and the other guy steps up, and it's like they're all freestyling, but then there's the song. Then they're like, you know, like doing the song, but then like, all right, now here comes the, you know, your 16 bars of just the drummer's just gonna hold it. So is the bass player, you're just gonna play it, bro. And it's like a guitar solo, it's like a singing solo, like a rap. And it's just like from a kid, I realized that for some reason, and I just think it's cool, you know, to just get up and just freestyle.
Yeah, man, and that's what was so special, especially that gig in Huntington Beach where we played that little bar. Is that we had John, who used to play with Fishbone, on drums, and then my boy Jack was playing bass, and they're so in tune with being able to listen. I remember that normally the HR set is a little over an hour. That night, the HR set was like over 2 hours because every single song turned into a jam. And I just remember being like, wow, we've been up here for fucking ever.
Yes.
But it was
the
beautiful.
Audience was with it. It didn't feel that way. The audience was so alive. It was like really great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when this whole COVID thing passes and we can do that again, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and we'll get into too that you made a quarantine album, like a self-produced quarantine album.
That's right. That's right. It's called Meltdown. I recorded it at the end of July, beginning of August, and kind of had it mastered in September. It came to me, you know, like you said, in the quarantine, being at home. So. Yeah, looking at stuff going on, feeling stuff going on, being down at the riots. I went down. I didn't riot myself. I just went down to look, admittedly, because you know, I want to see what reality is. You understand? TV is one thing, but that could just be like, you know, whatever. So I went down there to see what was really going on. But the album it hopefully just reflects a lot of how I was feeling. It's nothing contrived. It's just like, you know, just good old rock, good old punk, good old punk, rock and roll, hardcore. Yeah, you know, with a little bit of Jimi Hendrix, shake it in, you know.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, it's fun. I like it. What do you think about it, man?
I had a great time listening to it. I really love your voice, man. It's you have a really incredible singing voice, and then your hardcore voice too has a lot of. I mean, it's kind of a dead ringer, and you've probably heard this before, but you got like the energy of a young HR in there, and with your growls and whatnot, and so it's
that's because we're all singing like those. Not we're all singing like, but I guess, I don't know, maybe, I don't know what it is, but for me, my influence is not so much HR, but I mean, of course, yeah, what am I saying? You know, you guys have to know my influence, of course, is brother HR. HR is like phenomenally the best frontman there ever was. But before HR, I was listening to people like Jacob Miller.
And I'm going to ask a dumb question. Who is he? Who is he?
Okay. Can we play a song on your show or no?
Like probably not. Right? Yeah, it might get flagged. But if
so, like Jacob Miller recorded in the 70s, and he recorded classic hits like Dreadlocks can't live in a tenement yard. Dreadlocks can't live in a tenement yard. Too much watchy, too much sister. And the tenor of his voice is it's very similar to what you're hearing.
Yeah.
As far as HR. And another one was an artist like Ika Mouse. You know Ika Mouse, who would go Pinny mini pong 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 ama pana pana pinny mini ping ping pinny mini pana pana. Terrorizing the city. Terrorizing the city. Some of them are working equity. Some of them are working equity. Yeah. Don't kill a old lady or a baby or suck quantity. You know it not really pretty. Georgia, you not go have no pity. Me say the woman just a all a belly. Me say the woman just all a belly. Dang 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 dang. Bang gong 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 gong. You know them style is old. You know them style that come long before where like man like Joseph Hill for culture a sing. What a ilam bambale when the two sevens clash. What a ilam bambale when the two sevens clash. Man I go feel. You know that and there's the next step to sing louder than the music because you're singing like a reggae. If I understand, it's reggae we sing, it's Rasta music we sing, we call it Rasta core. It's influenced by reggae. It's influenced by punk, which is influenced by reggae already. Because in England, and I don't have to talk about that. So in England, the punk is influenced in the little pubs where the Sky's being played. And then, if you're then a Rastafarian singing rock punk, then you're also influenced by purist reggae, not just the mixed, like the Clash and stuff, but you're influenced by the purist reggae, which means the purist.
But that's cool. It's an amalgamation of your influences, but then you amp it up, and then that's how you get you.
And that's how it happens. So our tenor, our voice is pretty much the same, I think, because of our influences. Now, the one biggest influence I didn't mention was Bob Marley. Mm-hmm. He has to be the biggest influence. So Bob, if you look at him in a concert right after he was almost assassinated, it's a very famous concert. And it's famous because it was in a couple of documentaries that are originally old documentaries from 1981. And it's clips in there from it. And if you're conscious of Rasta, I've seen these documentaries since 1983. I was a kid, 12 years old. If you're conscious of Rasta or Caribbean, you're going to see these things about Bob Marley and thing, right? Maybe not that early, but maybe like 85 I saw these things. But in there, you will see Bob performing War, his song War. And it's the second night after he was shot. And he's still in his bandages covered around his arm and around his chest. Wow. And Rita still has her head bandage on and her hospital gown on. But they had a concert to do. And it's called the Smile Jamaica concert. And it was in the middle of the Edward Seaga and Michael Manley elections in the 70s, which was causing gunfights and people like it is with Trump right now. Like it's craziness.
Yeah.
And the Smile Jamaica concert was going to happen in the middle of all of this. And 3 nights before, some gunmen rolled up to Bob's house and shot his manager full of holes, shot Bob, shot everybody, trying to kill them all. Wow. Luckily, nobody died. And they showed up and did the show, man. People showed up at the arena. And so there's film of this in the dark. And the people are on one side of you see them on one side of the screen, and Bob is standing on it's like a hardcore show because they're almost head level, and Bob is raging.
Wow.
He's raging, and locks is like just past his shoulders, and he's thrashing around, and he's screaming, "War! War in the East! War in the West!" You know, the song "War" is Haile Selassie's speech to the United Nations in 1966. So the lyrics to that song is so pertinent because it was talking about injustice and all these things. And he made a song out of it, 2 years before. I'm sure you heard "War" before.
Of course, yeah.
That's Selassie's word for word speech to the UN.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, I mean, he refrains, "Everywhere is war." He keeps refraining that. Selassie doesn't refrain that in the speech, but it's part of the speech that Bob uses as the chorus. But all the words are his speech. And, until the ignoble and unhappy regimes are, all these things. And Bob is singing that song that night in the dark to this audience, and he's screaming it, and the percussion players, and they're the guitar player, they're thrashing around. It was like the end of the world, because like they just almost got killed. And this is the effect of hardcore. Any musician that feels like his or her back is against the wall, socially, mentally, even physically, it's hopefully, and they can transcend the mundane, it's going to reflect in the music, and the music is going to be at the deepest dynamics it can possibly pressurize into. And everybody knows that if you're on the outer skirts, everything is cloudy. But the farther in you go, the more condensed and the faster the atoms are moving. And that means the faster the atoms are moving, right? But it's also hard because the atoms are, there's no space anymore.
Yeah.
So it becomes the hardcore. Now you have reggae can be hardcore, right? It's so hard. It's so hard. There's no space. It's just pure rhythm, pure sonics, pure earth and cosmic vibrations where there's no holes. I mean, there's even space, but even the space is a noise. This is the hardcore. And musicians feel it. The blues is hardcore. Reggae is hardcore. Rock and roll was hardcore. Then it became metal. Then it became punk and became hardcore. Rock and roll is a rebellious music. It was the music of the bikers, of the kids, of the free thinkers, of the kids who got dissed playing jazz because they couldn't play jazz good enough.
Yeah.
They're like, but I can play that turnaround. They turned it into something. So yeah. So yeah, the album is really fun. I think I got a lot of good songs on there that are reminiscent of everything I was just saying. Just having music serve the purpose of having the listener have a fun time, and then be myself. I'm about things. I think about things. So like that's gonna be my lyrics. And my voice is I'm trying to sing different on this record. Like, the approach is different because obviously I played all the instruments myself. Yeah. So I wanted the approach to be it's not even wanted. The approach was just different. It was just like different way of singing. Or like, more like growling, like none of the big effect thing, just more punk. This is a punk record. I'm writing punk, and I really felt the vocals coming out of me when I wrote them. They were very organic, sung first, written, and then very organic, and just sung organically. Very easy. A kid could sing them. Any kid in the band. Maybe you never thought about it. Just thought about it. Anyone can do it. And that's what I was going after. This is the age of DIY. And
Oh yeah.
That's the sound I'm into right now, you know, the age of DIY, man. And it just sounds like it. Also, it sounds like a garage, kids in a garage. And that's just what I was going for.
Well,
kids going off, you know?
Yeah, the energy definitely it's tangible. And I feel like, as far as the DIY thing is more prevalent than ever. I just got a Logic set up and I just started doing all this this podcasting shit and all this stuff. I just started doing it last year and I'm like, why wasn't I doing this 15 years ago? And I think a lot of it has to do with the accessibility of the technology. You can get a recording interface and a laptop for it's pretty affordable these days. So really the possibilities are limitless. Like you can make a whole album in your fucking bedroom. It's wild. And there's kids, 15, 16-year-old kids that are making beats and getting famous on the internet, just making shit in their room. It's wild. It's a wild time.
Yeah, it's great for the artist who wants to just really express a lot of different parts of his or her nature, like it always was. I think Prince really was our dude on this. All those early albums written, arranged, composed, and recorded by Prince, you know, and playing the drums, and he wrote some clever stuff. Now, not everyone's into Prince, but I think those first 7 albums are some of the best new wave punk stuff that you can, and rock that you can listen to. You know, it's definitely some of the greatest stuff. And, but I'm still using rather dated equipment. I'm actually not even using Pro Tools.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I did not use Pro Tools. No loops and no samples, which is really odd for this era. No auto-tune and hardly any edits. Why? Because I wanted this album to sound like the old punk that we listened to, but my version and new. And that meant those dudes recorded in studios where they didn't have the luxury of overdubbing and stuff. And it was 1 take, 2 takes.
Yep.
And you got to choose your take.
Yeah.
And you may have a little bit to fix, but you better get it right, which is kind of the way we did Rise.
Okay.
And which is the way we did Fireburn, and which way we do everything, right? It's like that spirit energy, that moment of fire that you capture on tape is so precious, right? And it's also influenced from reggae. Because reggae is an old saying from the 60s and 70s. Nothing better than the first version. There's nothing better than the first version. So they would literally count off in the studio. 1, 2, 3. And you would hear, ding, and it'd be all of them standing around a mic. And the singer would be in front of the mic. And this was Motown.
Yeah, like Motown style, yeah.
Everybody was doing it. And so you needed that until you got into the mid 70s, like the early 70s, then they were like, okay, yeah, we can cut and paste. And then it just went wild after that. But most of that great golden stuff, and for reggae, it lasted longer. It lasted way what they liked the 1 take style. It was wild. It was, it was something you're holding on to. And that influences me a lot. That 1 take, the idea of punk and reggae being a rebellious music and doing it in 1 take and doing it as close to the first time that you did do it with the best energy.
Yeah.
And that's how this album is recorded. The drums were done, and then puff a little ganja, and then, you pick up the guitar and I plug in my Marshall and I just feel it out, man. And then I'm like, that's it. That's I can see the people flying over, and going crazy. And I can see it all happening. It's a visual thing. I can see it happening. And then I go, yeah, that's it. And I record the guitar and then the same procedure with the bass and whatever other instruments. And then I just let it sit. I just listen to it as a bare track. And I do it fast too, one takes, not trying to do it over and over, because I want to listen to it like it's someone else's song or a new song, you know? I want to get the feeling when I press play that I don't know what I'm going to listen to, really. I kind of know, you know? So when it hits me, it's like, dude, this is rad, you know? This ain't really. And once it's rad, like when I first wrote Meltdown, the record, one of the first songs was Now or Never and All Unite. And when I heard those, I went, this, you know, they were songs, but I was like, this is rad. This is like really good. I feel great listening to this. Like, it's awesome. And it just is making me want to sing. And they just proceeded from there. And the songs write themselves, man. They write themselves. If I get a good feeling, I hear a song or something sparks me, that's it. By the end of the 2 hours, there'll be a song. Like, I have to stop. Like right now, I can't do anything. Like grow my nails, like stop, because if I don't, then I'll be writing a whole other thing, and the album's only been out for 3 weeks, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, more songs.
That's funny. Well, it's that organic energy that pulls you. I feel like sometimes you have to push to get things done, and then there's other times where you feel like you're being pulled, like it's taking you. And so what you're saying is it kind of was like that feeling for this whole album. Like it just came out of you because you were feeling a way, and that must have been pretty cathartic too, especially being close to where there was, you know, some chaos and anarchy, to be able to comment on it and have it just all happen organically. That's a beautiful thing. And you can hear it in the tunes too. You can hear it.
What was that, bro?
You can hear it in the tunes. That energy is there.
Great. I'm glad. I'm really glad to hear that, and from you, Neil, and the positive feedback I've been getting on it from all the punk rock groups online and people who've heard it. I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful, you guys. Really, just, you know, this is my first foray as a solo record in the punk rock, like hardcore, like rock and roll. Like, I've written solo reggae records, and they're out there. And I even did a hip hop album in 2009 where I did myself, where it was all like, you know, but like rock has always been my thing. And I've always been like, dude, one day I have to do a rock record, but one day, you know, like, whoa. But I always felt like, and then suddenly, right before Fireburn started happening, I started singing these weird songs, man. I talked about it in other interviews. Like, I started singing these songs, like they just started coming to my brain, like, but they weren't anything like what they are now, okay? But they were like rock songs. Like, they were like songs you would think like standing on a mountain somewhere, like hair blowing, going like, wow, you know, like, and I was like, what the hell am I hearing? You know, like, what's going on in my head? Why am I hearing this like White Snake, like weird, like stuff, right? Like, right. Like,
that's
why?
Funny.
Why is this happening? Stop. But eventually, like, I started humming like what I was hearing. But what I realized was I was hearing really super rock riffs, like rock riffs, like that were crazy, that I was like only trying to like go like, whoa, that's pretty rock. And like after a while it'd be like work, right? Like totally singled out on doing something, like music is just pouring out of my head, and I find myself banging to music in my head, and I'm going, that's a bad riff, and I go, wait a minute, you know, like, so like that was happening, bro. And then I met Todd again, and suddenly he had all this music too. And we were both like, dude, that's crazy. You know, and then what if Fireburn happened?
Was this like 2016 around there?
2017.
So the band came together really quick, Fireburn.
Like that. It was crazy.
Were you in LA or were you in New York when you reconnected with Todd?
I was in Los Angeles. I was in LA. I was living on the way west end by the beach, and we connected in an odd way, man. I got a Facebook message saying that Daryl Jennifer had an art exhibit downtown. I went, and while I was there, Todd saw me there. But I hadn't seen Todd since like 1995, and I didn't speak to him. But the next day or the day after, I got an email from him. Hey man, how you been? Blah, blah, blah. I guess he got my email online from Facebook, whatever. And I was like, whoa, it's Todd, you know. And he's like, dude, I got some music, some demos. Like, I want you to listen to, man. I'd like to see if you want to sing on these things. And I told you I was like beaming in this like stuff and like hearing all this like hard like, like, you know, like, so I'm like, okay, let me know this thing. So like I open it up and I hit play, dude, and the first song was a demo version of Suspect. And I was just like, he did it. I was like, he did it. I was like, it just had that beat because that's the beat. And Todd knew what he was doing. I was like, listen to Todd. He knows what to do. Like, that's how you play it. That's it. That's it. And it didn't fail. It went all the way through the demo. And I was like, whoa. And then break it down. Or like some other songs came on. We have a bunch of songs you guys never heard because Todd was just like, no, we're going to release these and then we'll release the album. But then unfortunately he passed away. So we've got a bunch of songs that you guys never heard from Fireburn. And I hope they see the light of day. They're just great songs like Battleground and like, oh my God, crazy songs, crazier than we thought we released because we were going to release just the good stuff, but then give you like the album was going to be like, wait till they hear Destiny, wait till they hear Battleground, wait till they hear, you know. So that never manifested. But Todd and I formed a friendship super fast. I loved the music. I wrote him back, dude, this is insane. I'm like already pouring out with lyrics. Dude, I'll get back to you in a few days. And I sat on that couch, bro, and smoked a spliff, and I wrote those songs. I just wrote those songs. They just like poured out of me, just like Rise, just like any other thing that's I like that I'm doing that's good. It writes itself. Yeah. All I have to do is hum the melody behind what's going on, and the lyrics are kind of because I'm already thinking about these subjects, you know. And so Suspect and everything wrote itself, and then we got together. We hung out. Hey, what's up? You know, met at the studio. Cranked up the old machines, and the tape started running, and I sang what I had. He was just like, dude, you know, that's awesome. And I was like, great. I was like, yes, I think it's awesome. He's like, all right, man, we got to record it, you know? And so we did the scratch vocal, and we played it for the guys, Todd and Nick. And they were like, dude, this is awesome. Yeah, it's cool. And we also became really good friends. Todd and Nick were just so super sweet, so nice, so cool. Like, just like, yeah, we're all chill, you know. And so we met in a really small room, maybe 12 by 12, maybe a little bit bigger. And we wrote the Fireburn thing, man. It was amazing. It was like we just we had such a good time. I think that's what people felt too, just that fun that we loved each other's company, and the album I think reflects that.
Yeah, it has a really powerful feel to it. Yeah, like ferocious.
Yeah, it's that also came out of you know, those were crazy times. Like a lot of social things were going on back then. And if you listen to the lyrics, the music too, because we were all having conversations. But I think lyrics, okay, you can hear what words are saying, right? But like the lyrics they're about that. They're about, and people are probably like, Israel, when are they never not, right?
Right.
Like, right.
Seems to be a common theme.
Maybe should I release an album with baby songs, like love songs? I don't know. Maybe I should one day.
Yeah, like a easy listening, like R&B elevator music type shit.
Yeah,
Why not?
I should. Like I should. Yeah, man, I could sing like Elvis. Really love me. All right, so tender. All right, so the album reflects that. You can hear it in the lyrics, right? Corruption, nobody wins. It's all the same. It's so lame. Nothing makes sense to my brain. All I feel is hurt and pain. On and on and on. Destruction of the right and left took our future. Nothing's left. This is history's biggest theft. We're all alone. We got ourselves. Actually, we are all alone now, right? We got ourselves. Right? We got ourselves. So like all that stuff, like the wall, like maybe I can climb the wall if I don't fall down. Maybe I can stand up tall if I don't fall down. There must have been a heart in there, but now it's bled out. Our world's full of doubt. Something about scream and shout. And love is our light. Let this be. Let this be. That's later on. I thought, is that a reflection on Paul McCartney's thing? But I don't know if it was. But yeah, the lyrics are kind of about that cycle that was going on right after the election, all of that. And it just came out of all of that. Fireburn was the ferocity of that. And then everything personally that was going on first in our personal lives, the struggle we'd been through with music. People don't know, we've all been through struggles. Like none of us are rich off music. None of us are like banking, you know, man. Yeah. It's not like rock star. And that life was even portrayed, you know, that rock and roll life was only loaned to people, man. You know, the industry would lend you money. And a lot of you young artists out there, don't take big upfront deals. It's called recuperable funds. They'll lend that to you and then you'll be in debt. And you'll think, oh, yeah, I got a big upfront signing bonus. And unless it's non-recuperable, man, you'll be owing them that.
It's a loan.
And you owe them that off whatever you do. And when they put you on the tour bus, and when they put you in the hotels, and all of that, you owe them. And they don't tell you that. And that's what I learned in Rise. I learned that. I learned that you owe them that, you know, and that you'll never not owe them that. So then you become like Prince, you know. Like you write slave on your face, you know, you write slave. Because you can't never not owe them. It's designed that way. So don't take any big money deals. Just make your money on the back end. And if you don't make any money, be a friendly person so people remember you, you know? And don't do drugs. Except herb, which is not a drug.
It's medicine. It's medicine.
That's right.
But that's what I always remember, how the media portrayed Prince for being like, they're like, he's so weird and he's so eccentric. It's like, no, he was signed right out of high school and he was essentially just like popping out like one album a year for Warner Brothers for, I don't know how long, 20 years or something. Like, yeah. And like, you can only imagine how he must have felt when he wanted to do things for himself, or he wanted to do things a different way. And then he has this big corporation being like, oh, no, you can't. You have to do this and you have to deliver that. And it's like, it makes total sense when you actually get in the industry that Prince was just a dude, and it makes total sense why he felt the way he did, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it must have been painful to be such a creative person, creating day and night, and having just to take it and throw it in that vault he had, because that's what he had to do.
Yeah.
And his vault was full of thousands and thousands of songs that we as the public could have benefited from. We probably missed some of his greatest work between Purple Rain and Sign of the Times. In that era, he was trying to put out so much music. But I was a Prince fan from a kid because, let's face it, I came as a kid from another land. And so I really might as well have been from another planet, because at first it was like it's like an alien, right? Yeah. Literally, I had a card at first that said legal alien.
Oh, wow.
Right? I was like, I'm an alien. Like, holy smokes, that's weird, right? But Prince's music, that drive, that rock and roll drive, caught my attention. But then when I saw the movie Purple Rain, man, wow. And how he was living as a musician, being rejected and like, loving on the fine women, but just like, not being like quite the normal dude, but like, I saw a lot of I saw, as everybody did. It caught the fascination of the world, and everybody saw that liked it, at least saw similarities, probably within themselves. And his problems at home with his family was really what struck me. Yeah. The drinking and the fighting was really a reality in my home growing up from the time we came. And so I thought this cat is interesting. And so I became a fan. And so I used to go downtown and look for his music that he didn't release, because he had a back channel of releasing them called the bootleg shops.
Okay.
And they were all downtown Greenwich Village. There were about 7 good ones. These low-key hidden places in the 80s. And me and my older brother, I was about 13. So my older brother would go with me, David. And we would go down these places and just go through the crates of records, and there would be the Prince bootleg section. And so we got Chocolate Box, the Black Album, Crystal Ball. I can't even think of how many. We had a stack that thick of song after song that he couldn't release, but we had it all. And now it's being released officially, I heard. Like, you can officially get all those songs. Like, it's all out now.
I got a bootleg of the Black Album. My ex bought it for me some amount of years ago. But I remember reading in his book, he didn't want to release that one because he thought it was too negative. So some stuff he would put it out, and then he would look at it and just be like, okay, this has a lot of hatred on it, and this has a lot of angst that I don't want to put out in the world. So he was mindful of even that. Like, he would use music as a vehicle to be angry about things, and then he would just shelve it. Wow, it's wild. Yes. So wild.
He actually invented a character, if you remember, from that Black Album. On that album, it's not him, it's a character that he's in called Camille.
Yep.
Right, and Camille is singing most of that Black Album, which is an effect on the voice that makes the voice really shrilly and like really weird.
Yep.
And it's like, come on, y'all, we gonna get funky right now. Like, that's Camille. Like, it was like funky though, man. That like all that funky bass lines and like hard like, and he had good orchestration with his choral orchestrations, like his vocals would sweep in like Parliament vocals, very funky Parliament style, but he had his own twist to it, which was the Prince, So Prince was a big influence. Making an album on my own, by myself, is something I've always looked at Prince as an influence like that. I've had key influences, like key planets in my solar system: Jimi Hendrix, Prince, Bob Marley. These people all, and Prince always shined for me with that he did his albums on his own back then, because they're so creative. That album Controversy.
And I love it too, because when I read the book about the first 10 years of his career, he would just go in and he would just sit. He would have the song in his fucking head. He didn't demo it. He knew exactly. He always considered himself to be a conduit for music. He said the music is a divinity that just flows through him. Through God, and he was able to just be a conduit for it and just let it flow through him. But he would sit down, and I remember reading this book and being so enamored with the fact he would sit down at the drum set and he would just play the whole song all the way through to a click, and then he would just throw shit on top of it as he went. Just so amazing. What an incredible talent.
That's pretty much how I work as well. It's the only way to work, I guess, when you haven't now. I shouldn't say this maybe, but it's only for me that I'll say this, okay? I was never officially taught music by anyone at any time. I was a singer then, and Prince was too. He was never officially taught music. He taught himself. And look, when I say I wasn't taught music, I heard that as a kid and I thought, how could you possibly not? know how to play music, but it just happened like the guitar players or players I was meeting were in my neighborhood, and I didn't realize in my neighborhood you're not really going to get taught music. You know what I mean? It's just like a low class kind of. But I didn't realize that. But I was like, how can you play that good and you're not taught music? That's ridiculous. But it wasn't until I got older that I realized, oh, you just keep stumbling and playing and suddenly you hear it. Suddenly it just clicks, and your muscles have developed because you stumbled so much that when you do hear it, you already have the muscle development, and that's like playing it. And then there's some people like Prince who claim that they heard it from the beginning. They could just hear a song, and man, they'll sit at a piano and they know they can basically take 10 minutes and play the whole thing for you, like pick it out. Some people like that. I'm like that now, but I wasn't born like that. I trained myself. Influences, a lot of PMA. And I think that that's like, when you're like that, you're always going to be writing in a way that you feel it's coming from someplace else. You're never going to feel like you're in total control, because you realize you don't know what the hell you're doing, but you do, but you don't. And you kind of, you know,
but
and you kind of just
but you don't.
You're relying on your heart
to
hear the symphony, rather than some people rely on theory to hear the symphony or to write the symphony. You're relying on your heart to hear when it goes, oh, that's awesome. You know, like, all right, there's a part in the song War in the Age of Iron where right at the end of the vocals, he goes, mamas die, babies die, what the hell is that? Then he goes, like that part right there. And it's like, you know, like when I first played it, I was like, wow, it sounds like Thor standing on like, you know, like, and it sounds like big stuff going on. And that you got to rely on yourself. You got to, when you're not taught. So I think like Prince wrote like that, and then you never stop hearing it because you're always hearing. Dude, I hear music in roaring fans in the bathroom. I go in the bathroom mirror. Do you have this experience as a musician? I go in the bathroom mirror if I'm doing something in the mirror, or like brushing my teeth, or I'm like silent on my phone, and something is roaring or like making, bro. And I've thought about it. It's the only reason I can explain it. I've thought about it for years. My brain, I think, is interpreting the squeaks and the frequencies and the roar and the wind as notes. And somehow it's transcribing it into these weird songs I hear in my brain with weird vocals. And if I sit silently, bro, I can listen to it. As a radio, I can listen to it. But if I only open my mouth and try to sing it, it goes away. Isn't that the weird? And then I can't like... and I can't completely, I can mimic the vocals, but I can't completely get the grace of the vocals. They're so amazing. So like sometimes I just rather sit there and listen to the horns and the vocals and everything going off in my head and just sit there and listen to it, rather than, I've learned like, don't interrupt it, just listen to it. And I just listen and it's like, it's like all this stuff going on. It's like the weirdest songs, bro. And it's all because these machines are making noises and my brain is. And that's what I think it is. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I do hear it though. It's crazy. No,
it's similarly, yeah. If I'll be like driving a car or something, I'll be at a stoplight and I'll hear, you know, someone's like turn signal going click, click, or I'll hear something in the distance like a dit, dit, and immediately my brain will be like dit,
exactly.
Like it's the same type of thing. Not as much with atonal things, like something like a fan, but it never stops. It's insanity. There's always music happening in my head. It never stops. It's 24/7. It's when I'm trying to go to bed at night. It's when I wake up in the morning. And the weirdest part is I get in an argument with my girlfriend. I feel like the music is the loudest in my head when I'm in some sort of like a combative conversation with someone, whether it's an argument or a heated debate. I always hear some sort of pop song or something that like doesn't fit. Will pop in and just it'll start playing like "Blinded by the Light" or something while me and someone are screaming at each other. It never ends. Yeah.
The same, bro. The same. It happens to me too, man. And it's so hard to explain to others like that's happening, you know, and you're like, dude, yeah, the same thing. So that's what it is. You know, we're like, music is thing that is maybe channeling, coming through in some weird way from some weird place. And you know, like, what can we really say? I mean, it's just about harnessing it like water that is coming from a mountain, and you're thirsty, and you know others are thirsty, you know, and you're like, dude, okay, I got to make a bucket. And that's your way to learn guitar or learn vocals or learn drums. And when you make that bucket, then you can capture the water, and you'd be like, cool, satisfies my thirst. Dude, here's water for your thirst now. You know, I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna put some of this water in front of you. Drink it. Some people are like, dude, that water stinks. Oh, dude, what's wrong with you? No, dude, it's fine. No, you kidding me, dude? You've been drinking that too long. And then, like, or you sit some water in front of people and go, oh, dude, this is the water of heaven. And you go like, whoa, right on. And because you know it's healing them, then you know it's good water for them. They're enjoying it. They're enjoying the music. And I love that about music. Since I was a kid, you know, I was like kind of isolated. Like, my brothers are norms, I would say. They're like complete like norms, you know, like I'm the musician type, right? So I'm sure you can relate, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
like, right, kind of like isolated in a sense, in it, but not like in it, but not of it. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right thing, but like kind of like in your own kind of world in a way.
I was always weird. Kids would
little
always
world,
call
you
me
know?
weird. Yeah, always on my own little planet, talking to myself, making weird beats in my head, you know, making weird mouth sounds. That was, yeah. But I
always in a different space. And I think that's that's what it is, man. It's contributing to who we are as far as making these sounds that we're making, you know. I love the pulsing feel of rock and roll and punk. I love it. I love reggae, and I love other songs too. I love other styles too. But this is what at this point with Meltdown, I want to bring to the world. I think it's kind of going away. I'm scared it's going away, and where it does exist, it's being we can't allow it to be watered down. Rock and roll is crazy music. Okay, rock and roll is crazy music. It's music made for, first of all, rhythm. Rhythm should come back to music. Do you realize, like, we've somehow, like, rhythm is not a huge part of music anymore? You know what I mean by rhythm? I mean, like, there's a difference between listening to, let's take R&B today with drum machines, right? And nothing wrong with drum machines, but R&B today without, I forget drum machines, my bad. Drum machines are great. R&B today without percussion, reggae today without percussion, without the instruments of rhythm, right? Like guitars chucking away, clicking and chucking away. There used to be something about soul, funk, and rhythm in music that made music more, it made it more attractive for a wider variety of people, and people took it to heart more. Right now, it seems like rhythm is gone from music, and it's constricting, in a sense, the ability for people to relate to different types of music. Hardcore is hardcore. Reggae is locked in. Everything seems to be getting locked in. Rhythm used to be the common denominator in all these musics. The idea of funk, soul, something you could move to. Like, yeah, it's got a good beat. Remember, people used to say that in the old days? It's like such an old expression.
Yeah.
It sounds corny today, right? But it's got a good beat. That used to be the thing. you can hate the fucking sound, but it's got a good beat. You understood? It's got a good beat. That makes me dance. It makes me move. That's like gone. It's like pop music. It's like everything's. There's no like no sensitivity on the rhythm. So I am hopefully trying to, along with others, man, just kind of kick that for a little while. You know, the next album may be a different thing, but for this record, I was really on the rhythmic rock and roll, you know, old school, you know, rock.
Yeah, just
you know,
that organic four on the floor.
Yeah, the rock that made you jump around, the rock that made Tina Turner get up on stage and rolling, shaking her head and going crazy while I, you know, playing on this guitar. The rock that made Jimi Hendrix go crazy. The rock that made Sid Vicious stand there and scream lyrics at the mic. And the rock eventually that turned into punk and rock and hardcore. So, you know, I'm influenced by really ultimately by Little Richard and that era and that craziness. Mozart, Little Richard, all these people were doing, if you listen to it, they were doing hardcore, but they didn't have electronics. They didn't have electric guitars. They didn't have, you understand, amplifiers. Had you given Mozart an amplifier and a proper stringed instrument, he'd have been like, thank you. He would have written the craziest rock operas you ever heard. It would have been like, dudes would have been back there like, dun, 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 way before, you know, because that's what it's about. It's like you listen to Queen or something like that. That's all classical, mostly based in classical, especially their hits. So can you imagine these guys back then had instruments like that? It would have been some of the most fantastic stuff you ever heard. Because they were so skilled too. Yeah, they were like they were killing it, man. Like Yngwie Malmsteen back then, you know. So like to me, it's always existed. Even as the first man picked up a rock and went clack, 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 and there was a dancer, and then someone said, ah, la, 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 la. That's it. That's hardcore. There it is. You know, bop, bop, bop. So to me, it's always existed. And I'm just trying to carry on that, you know, at least on Meltdown, you know, it's what it is. Next year, you never know.
Yeah, it's just that energy, that primal rhythm that everyone has. You know, everyone has a heartbeat, and that's a rhythm from within, you know?
I think you said it.
Yeah.
That's true. The heartbeat, it's got that, you know, that click, and everyone can relate to that pulse. And I don't want it to go away, in a sense. I don't want pulse music to go away. That boop, 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 boop. Because we need it to keep grounded, I think. I think that that's where it is, really. And and all the hardcore is that boop, 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 boop. You're just adding a second boop, 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 bop, bop, bop.
Yeah, just that upbeat. Yeah,
you're just adding that upbeat, and it's the same. It's tridal rhythm, but it's just like, hey, just add that. You know, pick it up a little bit, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, and it just goes faster and faster and faster. And as the faster it goes, the more cosmic I find the music. I don't know if you found this, but the faster it goes, the more cosmic the music feels, as though it's becoming slower, as though almost you don't have to go like this anymore. You could just go like this. You'd be like.
Oh yeah, I feel that.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like whoa, this just going so fast. I could just rewind on the beat, like it's like. So I like that too, how it just transforms into something else. It's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. There was a time where I was like spending a lot of time in extreme heat, like in a sauna. And what I would notice is the longer I spent in the sauna, all the music would slow down. Like to the point where I was listening to really fast music, and it would be like beats slower in just the way my body perceived it. And I always thought that was really insane because I know how fast it is. It's a static thing. It's this fast, but it wasn't. Everything slowed down, and then I would like my vision would be trailing a little bit. Maybe I was doing something bad for my health. But I always thought it was really interesting being in like a 120-degree room and sweating, and then having fast hardcore type music just seem all wavy and trippy.
That's I experienced something similar when say my energy is different and I haven't listened to a particular style of music in a long time, or a particular album, and my energy is low and I hear it, it'll sound different than when I have more PMA or more or in a different mind state. Like if I'm not really, if I'm just consumed with something else like work or some ill-mannered thing has got me so down, then I know I'll have to look further for what I'm looking for. In a sense, it'll come out, but it won't be as easy as if I'm just like, yeah, having a good time and just put it on and it's on, you know. It's like flipping, you know what I mean? Like to get flipping takes a little bit more, you know, you have to climb that ladder, right? So yeah, it's like I've experienced something similar. Mind states are key to it, right? It's just a key to the whole thing. You know, I think I enjoy music in different ways for different time periods of my life, and in different ways. There are times when certain music is really important to me, and there's fine times where like it kind of fades into other music, becomes more important, and then suddenly it resurfaces. It's really strange. Very strange. It's like a wish-washing thing that happens with music. It's like an ocean, and sometimes it's really still. I got a song like it's just, you know, it's like acoustic. Sometimes it's just acoustic. I did this album called Ghetto Folk that's mostly written on acoustic guitar. No one's ever heard it. I didn't really put it out. I put it like on like sites and stuff. I didn't really put it out. But it's mostly like, so yeah, sometimes music is acoustic guitars and smooth bass lines with droning vocals. And then sometimes you just want to get up and, shake, man.
Yeah.
And yeah. And that's most of the time, you know, I love that shit. It's exciting. It's frequencies. I think music changes the frequency of who I am when music is being played or when I'm playing it. Like when I was a kid, music affected me more than my brothers. It affected everyone in the family, but in a normal way. I really got into music. I was like really able to remember every single like lyric after hearing the song like 3 times, every single like note pattern. Like, and I didn't notice that. I thought it was normal. But now I think about it as a man, like when I think about a kid, I'm like, dude, that must have been so weird. Like for the adults, you know, like this kid knows like every song, like every time he hears it. That must have been really weird. I never thought about it. I was never self-conscious about it, right? But now I think about it, it's really crazy. But I knew that all the time. And like, you know, music it's just, man, it's just something that I think is so human and so part of us. I can't do without it. I just express it in every way I can. Sometimes more things mean more to me. Sometimes I need to walk away and get saturated again with life and become who I am again. Music can make you into a thing. You know, you can start like singing or like writing and you're off on a trip, like an actor, maybe studying a part, you know, like you're off on a thing. You're off on the muse put you on the boat and it's rowing you around, man. You're off in the ocean, you know, and you're like, so sometimes you got to come back to your island and be like, you know, get yourself back together, you know, soak up your energy and then go again, you know. So it's fun.
It's really refreshing to hear you talk so passionately about something that I am so passionate about, because in these times when all we can do is connect with people over a fucking Zoom call, it's like, it's nice because I'm talking to someone and I'm like, oh, this person's like me. Like, I don't feel so alone, you know? And my girlfriend's, she's really into music too. Like music, she performs, she sings, she does stand-up comedy. She's talented. But we speak kind of different languages though, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a little different. But hearing you just describe and be so animated with it, this is nice. I appreciate you doing this.
That's great. It's same here, man. Same here. I'm enjoying hearing you go like, yeah, you're feeling the same way, because it is a rare thing to meet people that speak that way or feel that way. I certainly haven't met many people. So I mean, like, I've been fortunate though. Yeah, I've met a lot of musicians, which is great. So, but yeah, man, music is a force, dude. It's a force. And if you don't be careful with it, it can, it can just take you like Calypso, like took Ulysses to that island, and she never let him leave the island. It was just, and it can do that to you. Some people get into that world, but you have to come out of that world for a while. You have to walk around and see the world and enjoy yourself. That way you write better songs. I'll tell all the musicians out there, like young upcoming musicians, do not stay in your studio all day long, 24 hours a day, thinking you're writing great songs. That's great. Yes, do that. But you got to take a break, got to soak it in, got to get some good experiences, some bad experiences, some stuff that makes you hurt, makes you cry, makes you laugh, makes you, you know what I mean, Neil?
Oh, yeah.
You got to get that stuff going, man. Because if you don't get that stuff going, then the juices of creativity stop and you get all confused by the time you're 25 and you're like, wow. I was there, man. I was there, but then I was forced to get into the wilderness. And when you get into the wilderness and you go on your walkabout, then you start hearing the songs again and you're like, oh, it's like when I was young. So that's, it's all good. It's all good.
It seems like it never really goes away, but there are times where, and I'm finding that right now because all I do is, I'm just making shit. But I want to go back to living some regular ass life so I can take from that and put it into what I'm trying to make, because it feels kind of stale, and I'm just sitting at my computer. Like I want to go experience things, and it's just a weird time, man.
Yeah. But I try and remember for myself that there's a time for everything. So even what I'm doing, when I think I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's the time for that. And at that particular moment. And then I'm going to make plans, like you said, for the next thing, which is going to be different and going to be the time for that, hopefully. And we just, the in-between waiting is our meditation moment, like our moment where we can meditate and sit still and say, okay, I've done my best. Now the universe will do the rest, or Jah will do the rest, or His Majesty will, whatever you're going to say. That thing that brought you out of countless issues and problems from the time you were a kid till now has worked somehow. Like you didn't pay it, you didn't counsel with it, you didn't sit it down and say, hey, let's go have a drink, I got a problem I need taken care of. It just kind of happened. Maybe not even like how you expected it, but it happened. And so that thing will do its best again. And we also know when we're not delivered into what exactly we wanted, the thing we're delivered into somehow seems to become exactly what we needed. And so that thing does its best. And we got to have faith in that, But life's a panic, man. Life's a complete panic. It's like they got us working, earning money, all this stuff that shouldn't even be, because, it's enough money in this world to give people a basic income and just be like people like you and me, Neil, be like, look, when you're born on this planet, everyone, all right, this is what the deal is. You get a 15 by 15 place. It has running water. It has everything you need. It's completely waterproof, shelter, heat. It's a fine place to live. You get a certain amount of money per month. And that is what you get as a human being. You get healthcare, you get welcome to planet Earth.
Yeah.
This is yours, okay?
Yeah.
When you die, it'll be passed on to someone else. But for now, welcome. This is yours. Now, you can live this way for the rest of your life if you want to, Neil in Israel, right? But, and you can do this. And there are people who've done this, and they've done art, and they've done other, they've discovered who they are on their own. They've done their own studies. Outside of this, though, we have a world that we're running, that we run then outside of this, where we run with money. The world is different than this world, which is well taken care of. There are mansions, there are, other ways of living. This world that's well taken care of that you live in can be yours for the rest of your life. There's no problem. But if you desire to, or if you create something, or if you make something that makes you money, then that may be good for you, because then you could graduate into this other world that you might want to get into, where we run with certain level of prosperity. That okay, your world is well taken care of. There's no poor. You're not suffering. There's no hunger. But this world is an independent kind of where you will lose this world. You will lose this 15 by 15. You will lose this monthly allowance. But you will come into this world where you will gain all of what this is, not neglecting this world at all, because this world, of course, values and supports and respects that world. We all come out of that world. But and then this kind of system would evolve into okay, I could be a doctor. I can go out and get that mansion in Beverly Hills, and I could be a doctor. I can go to school and do everything that mom wants me to do. Or it could be like me or you maybe, and be like, I don't want to do that. I'm already endowed with some kind of perception. Yes, I want to learn to read and write. That's great. I want to learn math. I want to learn history, certain things. But I have a feeling like you don't have. I've talked to you about it. You don't have it, my brother. You don't have it, my family, my friend. I have a perception about my life. I feel like I'm an artist. I feel like I can do something creative that doesn't come from somewhere else, that I don't have to go buy it. I can make it. That kind of person stays in the 15 by 15 with the allowance. And that person is nourished by books and the internet, and their supplies are bought by the state or by whoever, if they get an allowance. And I'm getting a battery is low. Let me plug in here. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Are you on your phone or a laptop?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay.
I'm on a laptop. So then, if you see what I'm getting at, you have a society that offers the artist who knows they're an artist from a child the chance to be an artist and to say, yeah, you won't be homeless. Yeah. There's no way. We have this world set up so you'll never be hungry. You'll never be homeless. Our brother, our sister, our child, our son of the society. You'll never be homeless. You'll never be hungry. You can be the artist. And hey, if you create something that's beautiful, show it. Allow us to provide you with more, and maybe so much more that you can pass on this world to someone else that needs it, and you come over onto this world. And there's no barriers between these two worlds. It's just a matter of, hey, do you want to be self-sustained, or you want us to sustain you? And if you want us to sustain you, no problem. We'll sustain you. There's enough money for that. Do what you need to do. You want to sit at home and read all day and get your mind huge and swell your head up with knowledge? Excellent. It's going to be good for America eventually, right? And this is how we can be. Seriously, we can be this way. And it would produce so many artists and so many creators and technological thinkers and people who are philosophers and people who can lead and people who can, so many people would be coming out of that world, man. with greatness, when you leave the human being to be free and within a society that has law and protects them, whether that's influence from the religions or not, we still need some sort of law, right, to protect us so we can wake up in freedom. And right, that's true, right? So within those confines, that would be great. Why can't we make a society that has that, that gets rid of the fear that the masses won't be working? So what? The masses will be working on something eventually. You give people 30 years. The people don't sit around for 30 years. Yeah. Absolutely not. It's fucking boring, right?
Yeah.
You give them weed, you give money, weed, they're going to be doing something, right? They're going to smoke a joint and be like, we got to, do something. We're going to be so inspired, And so in 30 years, the society would be hopping, man. It'd be music, it'd be craziness, it'd be unstoppable with creativity.
Yeah, and it's just sad that so many people are opposed to even discussing anything like that. It's just America is just not all America, but it seems like in the red states at least, and it hurts my brain that a word like socialism or sharing, just the idea of sharing, is considered bad. It just blows my mind. Like, if there's enough to go around, if Jeff Bezos is sitting on that much money, like, why are there homeless people? If
he can fix it all by himself.
And I don't know what to do or how to implement any of this or how to even bring it up in discussion, but it's like what you were saying. Like, think about how human beings could thrive if we weren't just chasing money. And
exactly.
And when it comes down to it, that's why my girlfriend and I are leaving SoCal, at least until this COVID nightmare dies down a little bit, because it's expensive to live out here, and doing what we do and being who we are just isn't that beneficial to society, where we can have a livable income based off of just that. We have to do things like, be servers at a restaurant, and you know how it is. It's expensive out here. You have to work, but
it's too expensive for all of that. And then they fight something like socialism for us, people who are working in these types of places and these types of jobs, and they say, oh, but then I want my Social Security, socialism. I want my Medicare and Medicaid, socialism. I want my garbage truck, socialism. I want my police, socialism. I want my senators paid, socialism. I want my congressmen paid, socialism. I want my military paid, socialism.
Yeah.
It's all socialism.
Yeah.
And then they say, we don't want socialism. And it's like, what? But it's not, no one wants socialism. The conversation turned into socialism because, like Bernie Sanders was saying, tax the, and then as soon as you say tax the, then you're a socialist. But Bernie Sanders was saying there's something called futures on the stock market, right? Which they bet, they're betting how the market will do. In the future, the market will be up by 2,000 points, not individual stocks, but just the market itself, the overall thing. So, okay, I bet you, Neil, and what are we in November? In February, the market's going to be at 30,000. You say, nah, Israel, you crazy. In February, the market's going to be at 25,000. And so we just bet on futures. And we're not using money. We're using the money that we believe our stocks are going to make. And if we default, that money is paid back by the government anyway. So is that even real money? No. So Bernie Sanders was going to tax that money there, futures money, at 3%. But futures money is billions of dollars. So that 3% would have been millions and millions, billions of dollars. So that 3% would have been turned back into public service programs. And that would have been healthcare for all, free college, and all of that, which is not socialism. But the other argument is, if it is socialism, okay, let's say it is socialism. Don't you, besides all the things like we talked about, police, garbage and all that, don't you practice socialism in your own home with your family? Like, do you leave one family member hungry because it's not working? Do you put grandma on the porch because she can't go upstairs, so you don't carry her, you just put on out on the, you know, leave her laying on the ground or something? Don't you practice equality, at least a little bit, socialism, caring for one another in the family home? Then why not in the country you live in? This is where you live. This is your family home. This is, you don't live on the moon. You don't live in Mexico. You don't live in America, Canada. You don't live in Europe. You live in America. There's no place to go. You can't leave the borders right now, especially because of COVID. We can't go anywhere. We might as well turn to each other as people on a lifeboat do when there's no choice but to turn to each other. And not be the people in the movie Lifeboat. There was actually a movie in the 40s or 50s that came out that really showed the ugly side of humanity trapped on a lifeboat after a, you know, in the Second World War, starring a lot of famous actors. And these people turned against each other. So we need to understand the lessons of that movie. I think you remember that movie. It was Katharine Hepburn and like all these old really famous actors, black and white, amazing film with these method actors that just turned themselves out on camera. But we need to turn inwards and say, hey, even if it is socialism, in a family, you practice some kind of welfare, some kind of socialism in your own family. And this is our American family. We can't have people suffering. Look, it's not smart to have a world where people are suffering, a town, a country, a city, a region, because you can't be safe in that region. You can't go to the park and enjoy your night with your fiance, your loved one, your girlfriend, or your husband. You walk at night, you have to be afraid because people are poor and hungry and they're disenfranchised. So you can't go too close to that side of town because they're going to attack you. You can't drive into that place, you get carjacked because you. Now, what's the solution to that? Feed the people, give them what they want, and then you won't have this need for overwhelming police force, overwhelming jail populations, threats when you're walking in the park, threats when you're walking in the dark. Give the people what they want. They're not asking for anything. They're asking for food, clothes, and shelter, and healthcare, and decent places to go to work where they're not, where their dignity is kept intact, where they're not treated like they're tied up to a chain, but they're given day off when they need it, and they're not made to feel like their job is in jeopardy all day. Do that for people. People will respond. And I'm not talking right away. You have to look at the arc. It's like you're talking 20 years, 25. When you look at the society 20 years from now, you're going to be like, wow, that really made a change to make the people. I can actually go to the park and the guy's not trying to rob me. He's just sitting there with his new dog he bought for money he made, and he's enjoying his pet now instead of looking at me, sizing me up. He's too busy petting his dog. And this society it's not, some people say, Israel, that's, you know, it sounds good, but it's, you know, how would we get that? Maybe it's simplistic, but a simple solution to a complex problem is usually how things are found. You know, it's usually how it is. And the simple solution is to get people on a level where they are educated in a proper way. They're able to make a good salary, and they're able to accumulate some sort of wealth, some sort of holdings, and the desperation will disappear. Then people will focus on philosophy. You don't teach a man philosophy before you can feed him. That's one of the oldest things in the history of the world. Yeah. You don't sit around teaching a man now. Philosophically speaking, and he's like, I just got out the desert. Can you please give me some water?
Yeah.
Wait, you must learn about Socrates and what he said. It's amazing. It's like, no, give the guy some meat, give him some water, give him some food, give him some rest. And when he's all full and he feels good, you sit down, you light up a herb or two, and you talk. And then you rise him to the level of, but they're not doing that, man. They're just like, they're just like, drink and go fight. And then now we're all going to change. And it's all crazy. I don't know what's going on. There's no substance. They're not putting any substance behind anything. So it's bad.
Yeah, and I live in Long Beach, and we go for walks every day, and you can just sense the desperation in the air, just walking down the street, walking down Pine. People are desperate, and people aren't getting those basic things, and people are angry, and then there's just a big divide of people that think that the disenfranchised don't deserve shit, and it's like you said earlier in this conversation, it's like we're all comprised of the same matter, and we're all living under the same sun, and we're all on this lifeboat together right now. It's the United States and it's COVID. So you're trying to tell me that no one deserves help?
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Now we're gonna go a little bit deeper into the pool. There's a deep historical overshadowings. I'm going to try to choose my words really carefully.
Okay.
There's deep historical overshadowings that are prohibiting people from seeing everyone as entirely deserving. Deep historical overshadowings that are prohibiting seeing everyone entirely being deserving. Because why? Because these deep historical overshadowings have taught in a certain reference and frame that others are literally something other, that they're others. They're other than human, other than. So when these overshadowings are predominant, then you're going to probably get a world where need and want is looked at as aggression, as opposed to a humanity is a need. It's looked at as this is a aggressive act of rebellion and refusal to submit, and therefore you are the reason for your own problems. And this is a sick way of thinking that we've been taught. Sick. The ancients didn't think this way. This is something new. This is your own problem. You've wrought this on yourself, and therefore you get what you deserve.
That's not true. It's just not true, though. I mean,
this is what I'm arguing.
I'm agreeing with you. But
absolutely, what's going on?
And I grew up in a predominantly white suburb in Detroit, and I can tell you, it's. You're taught to laugh at people who have less than you, and even if it's systemic, it's fucking. It was really weird growing up.
And I think it's a human thing too, because in every race, when you have an elevated amount of wealth and an elevated amount of security, you get that. Even about the same people in your own race. I'm sure you got that about poor whites or whites that were disenfranchised.
I got it. I got it. Yeah, I got it when I was in elementary school because I wasn't wearing the expensive shoes. I had kids beat me up and make fun of me. They'd say, "You're wearing those dollar shoes," because my
I've been there.
Yeah, and it's weird because I grew up in a nice town, but my parents suffered in order to make that happen so we could get a good education. But the back end of that was other white kids saying that I was poor, and that it was a weird. It was a weird.
I had the exact same experience. It's amazing. The pinpoint exact same experience. I would get what they call crashed on every day with my dollar shoes from the A&P, sharing jeans with my little brother, to go to school, and everyone has relative amount of money, middle class, Yeah, man. So it's a human thing that is like separating. But the problem with that part of what we're talking about now, these overshadowing things, is that we had slavery in this country, and slavery made dark-skinned people look bad, because that is the shame of slavery, that dark-skinned people have to suffer because of stereotypes. Like my older brother David, they have to suffer. They have to have, not all the time. I mean, it's not like 100%. It never was 100% across the board. It never was. But there's this like kind of like majority feeling, like kind of almost like that Black people and like what they would want to call in the past, like color people, like are just not, they're like not fully citizens, like second-class citizens. And because they didn't participate somehow, and this is what I, as I'm like learning, reading, participate somehow in the full European experience, being that Europe produced things that Europe was very, very, like Wagner and the writings of Nietzsche and all these things changed Europe. It changed it into a place that thought in a very formulated fashion. The Germans changed Europe. Germany changed Europe a lot. After Martin Luther's Reformation and all of that, there was a more geared towards thinking. And before Germany, like Europe and Africa and these places, everybody was living in thatched huts and stuff like that, right? It was almost all mud and thatched huts, except for the biggest cities like in Egypt and in Tunisia. If you were down, say, in certain parts of Africa, people were living like that. But in Europe too, they were living like that. It was no difference. There were people making clay pots there, and there were people making clay pots up in Europe too. It's the same thing. But after Rome invaded, Rome was the middle where the religions of Africa, Northeast Africa, and the religions of Asia Minor came to. Rome was connected to Europe. So when Rome brought all of these ancient religions from India and influence of Asia Minor, African religions into Europe, it changed Europe in a way that hadn't changed Africa, because the religions didn't go into those Far Eastern places, right? They were already there, separately living there, in contact with each other, but having an autonomy. The Hindus were autonomous to the Abyssinians, who were autonomous to the sun worshippers, but they all knew each other, and they're all like shared. When it came to Rome, Rome smashed it all into one thing. There was no more autonomy. It formed one ball, and it took that ball and went through Europe, and it showed the ball through all of Europe. But this gave Europe a benefit, that Europe was able to see everything on one platter. Do you understand this benefit? Yeah. That the other older nations had sun worship. They had Hinduism. When Europe got it, it was like this. It was all on one platter, and they were able to see it all. The workings of the writings of the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Hindus, everything was exposed in the Enlightenment in one fell swoop. So Europe had the benefit of not only having to become ultra freaking focused to translate and study this wealth of knowledge that had suddenly arrived on their doorstep, but they also had the benefit of being able to look at it in parts and see, but wait a minute, why didn't anyone think that if you take this part and you take this part and you put it together like this, that you have something that goes like this? Why didn't anyone think about this before? Right. And that's what happened with over and over. And plus, there were inventions they took from since Alexander, well, not they, like nations have been invading. Rome was the last. Alexander the Great took inventions. He hid them in Macedonia, who then hid them in Greece. And then they then the books that were from the Library of Thebes, along with these inventions, were taken to Rome, and they hid them in the catacombs. And then from then, they were hiding them. They didn't understand them. They couldn't read the books. They don't know how they work. Like, you get an iPad. How does this work? They don't know. They have them all hidden. But some of them, they figured out. The steam engine ones, they figured out. And some of the mathematics, and it started spreading, bro. And this is what happened. So, all right. So the rest of the world suddenly was outpaced by this. Okay, you can understand. I mean, this is a benefit that's like you drop the information on someone's doorstep and everyone only has pieces of the puzzle. But you drop the box cover on this guy's doorstep, who's going to have it all? This guy's going to be like, I know it's a lion and you think it's a piece of fur, right? So they knew it was a lion. So they're like, wow, okay. So that gave an immediate advantage to Europe, right? So Europe set out with that advantage to learn more. But what they discovered was they knew too much. These people didn't know really as much. So it was like, okay, so then a lot of stuff happened. A lot of mix-up happened after that because people didn't know much now. Like everyone knows everything now. Like now it's like, okay, well, how do we do this? Like, how do we? And then that's where all that stuff happened. But now all that stuff settled down. There's still that understanding. If this is making any sense at all, I don't even know.
No, it is. I'm picking it up.
Right, but like it's still that understanding that Europe is associated with the thinkers, the inventors, the philosophers. As I mentioned, Nietzsche, as I mentioned, Rousseau and Klimt, and the painters and the sculptors, this is the important part, it is remembered, all as though it happened in a vacuum, in isolation, as though suddenly there was a seed in Germany or Europe, and the seed erupted into everything that is Rome and Greece, or Rome and philosophy and the whole thing. The Industrial Revolution, the Enlightenment era, the whole thing, like it just went poof, without understanding that, it took the Crusades going out to the other nations to gather this stuff, bring it back. It took a lot of gathering, and the gathering is not acknowledged. And so the ethos is Europe is supreme, right? Europe, white supremacy. And that is an ethos reliant only on the fact if you disregard the gathering. And if you disregard the gathering, then of course Europe is supreme, right? Because who the hell would have come up with all this stuff all of a sudden, like bing, 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 bang, right? But if you regard the gathering and the trips by Marco Polo to China and the trips, if you regard the gathering, then you realize what happened. And you're like, it's not white supremacy. It's the ability for Europe to assemble everything in a way that wasn't able to be done before because it was never brought together before. Europe was brought all over the planet as the race that people encountered, being one of the youngest races to start up. When the Egyptians were 3,000 years old, Rome was just starting, right? When China was 2,000 years old. When, these other people were old already. They were already studying the sun. They knew progression, the precession, the 26,000 year calendar of the earth turning, of all the sun, all the houses of the zodiac for the earth itself. They knew the yearly procession. They knew the houses of the sun. They had sun worship. They knew everything. So Europe came and learned all of that. They learned the Prisca theology. It's known. Europe traveled to learn these things. They went to Timbuktu, Abyssinia, India, right? But the benefit was the schools were already open. And they didn't have to go like sit in one school for 1,000 years and then maybe another one's popping up. These were the popping ups. When Europe came, everything was bubbling already. The sauce was bubbling. They just were able to taste the spaghetti sauce without having to taste the tomato and the black pepper and everything separately. They said, what spaghetti sauce is this? This is amazing. But you guys are... Or maybe it was more like this. No. I'll rephrase that. The ingredients for the spaghetti sauce were already on the table. Yeah. Follow me.
Oh, yeah.
All of it. And they were able to taste the ingredients. Yeah, this is pepper. Wow, this is the tomato. This is But have you guys ever thought of smashing this all together and putting this with it? No, but this was the benefit that Europe said, well, wait a minute, since you guys had it all separate, now it's all together. Watch what I do. You smash it, and this is chemistry. This is alchemy. This is, look at a car. What's it made of? Metal, rubber, and glass, right? Where did rubber come from? Who had rubber first? Where did Europe discover rubber? South America. The guys were using rubber balls, and they were using it for fun. Rubber was something they used for other purposes, and they brought rubber out of South America. Glass making has been around since Egypt before that, right? But Europe got a hold of glass making to learn to bake sand into glass make. Metallurgy can be found all through the all through the 33rd parallel, people making stuff out of metal. Europe got a hold of that, but Europe got a hold of it all at one time.
Yeah.
So is that if you got a hold of it all at one time, you can make an automobile. You can say, well, look, the idea of the rubber is not just because it's bouncy, but because it can work to support weight in a soft way. It supports some kind of weight. You see, and this metal that you're making here, maybe that's what it can support. So let's use it for something. And eventually the uses got more intricate because everything was all together. That's the point. Everything was all together.
Yeah.
So once that ethos is thought, once that's shown that, look, that's what happened. There was a gathering and there's a debt owed to where it was gathered from. There'll never stop being this problem of what is termed white supremacy, because there will always be the belief that Germany and Europe invented everything, that it just came out of nowhere, and the Egyptians were some weird people, and the Hindus are, it's just boom. So it's that's what it is. It's very deep, man. It's got to be taught. It's a whole different re-instruction, a re-education of everyone that has to be done.
Absolutely, because especially like growing up and being taught about Chris Columbus and all that shit, like the way you just framed it actually kind of blew my mind, because it's never been framed that way for me before. It's it makes sense that the Europeans would borrow from all these different cultures, they would call it their own, and then they would go to another land and be a little bit more refined in their eyes, superior, and then just look at these primitive people and then just be like, well, we're obviously more evolved. You just kind of blew my mind. I liked this.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And it happened because only, in my opinion, and this is why, like only, I think it's not about race. It's not about race. It's not about the white man or the black man. I think what happened with Europe happened only because Europe needed resources. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Europe is not an easy place to live, especially above, say, middle Italy, above Spain, into England. It gets damn cold going higher and higher up.
Oh, yeah.
And so the need for resources may have driven this need to secure external resources in other lands, which brought Europeans into conflict with the dwellers of those lands, right? And so this, I think, may be a way that we could all look at this and say, this is what happened. Is simply a need for resources. I think we're seeing that in America now. We have limited resources, so we go to places and secure places that we may have those resources available. And that may be a good thing for those people. Like, for instance, when Europe went to, first came to certain lands, they brought a certain level of things they could teach the people. They brought something they could teach them, and the people had something to offer Europe. But like I said, Europe had an adventurous spirit I think, driven by the climate of Europe itself, and that and you know, the history of these of the Vikings up north that sailed the oceans, and I think that this spirit was always alive because there were warmer lands to the south. You know, warmer lands. Why stay there in the winter? You know, like they're like, yo, there's warm lands. You just hit that current, get on this boat, hit that current, and in 2 days, 3 days, you're down in this paradise with this crazy animals and beautiful people, 7 feet tall, and you get there and it's like another world. Maybe that's where all the stories came from.
Yeah.
Europe traveling to Africa and coming back going, there's another world that exists. And the gods are there, you know, and they live in a mountain paradise where they're, you know, and suddenly it became, let's go, more and more and more and more and more. And then it became like, well, you know, so it's a tragic history, and it has to be understood in some way and dealt with, because I think if it isn't, we're just going to have people who are not knowing who they are historically, and from where they are from, and from who their bloodline is, and from what part of the continent, if the continent they are from. And that is hurtful to the psyche of a person, because they have no background, even if they feel like they have a background in their in the immediate area. It's like a person that has amnesia living. A person that has amnesia living with the people they don't recognize, or living with the life they don't remember, and being forced to just accept the new life now, and things are the way they are, and you have to understand this is the way it is, or this is the way it always been, or and the person's like, but I really wish I had some sort of memory of how I grew up, or who my father was, or where my original home was. And being told for 30 years, just forget that. And then suddenly the person does forget that, and they just start living as though in the thing they've been told to live as. Kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Total Recall.
Yeah, yeah.
When he was just told to live in that way, and that's what it was. But then he realized, wait a minute, it's a whole. So I think that's where people, like the people who are going through, say, that period of slavery or stuff like that have come out of that, maybe, or maybe other people who are hurt by other things are going through that, you know, are going through that need for remembrance, or just acceptance of the immediate now. But the immediate now isn't such a friendly place. So a need for remembrance keeps coming back. And so it's a cycle that never ends. And so to end the cycle is give the remembrance, you know, open the books, open the teachings. There are some people who do not understand that when you go to Europe, Jesus is a brown guy, right? He's brown. Wow. He's browner than brown. He's like the color of chocolate, right? He's like a little bit lighter than chocolate brown, and he's got curly hair. And so are all the prophets, and so are all Mary and all of them. And that's the way it is. And so, like, that's because Europe got it first before America. Europe got it straight from the saucepan. And so they know that it wasn't possible that Europeans could be living in those times or those stories, because they know the history of Europe. They know when Europe started. They know when Rome began in 750 BC. They know that. They know that Germany began at this age. They know Germany didn't begin in the Bible days. And they know when they go to those lands back then, 400, 500, 600 years ago, when the Crusades were going to those lands, that there were no Europeans there. So they were the only ones. So everyone they met looked like that. So this is the reality they accepted. Like, okay, well, God doesn't have to be white for me to understand. It's not even that God is white or black. They're worshiping the sun, bro. And in fact, they may see the brown color of these people as just, that's the symbol of the sun. He's in the sun all day. He's brown. They may not see it as, you understand?
Yeah.
Like as if you show it as green, Horus in the Osiris in the Egyptian religion was always shown as green. He was called the green man. But that's because his skin wasn't green. He represented the earth. So he was the green man. And so this could be, well, this is the brown man, because he is dealing with all these stories are eventually about the sun. And the sun has an effect on human beings, whether you're white or black. It turns you a hue different than you are. And so they were showing people with different hues. But that's not really my point. My point is that, can you imagine the effect it would have on, say, the descendants of the Africans that were brought to the West from the Caribbean, South America, all the way to America and Canada, if they were told what we just spoke about right now? Because they have absolutely no idea, right? So they were like, dude, do you know that, like, Christ is just white here, not because he's really white, but because, like, that's just an image we chose to show him as, that Christ really has no color, that we can show him as any color. And in fact, in Europe, he's brown. But did you know further that the Christ story comes out of these brown people in Egypt that you should know about, that you have history here? There's not like it's not just about so these type of things need to be exposed so that the suffering can stop, so that separation we're talking about can stop, so that the Europeans can see, hey, it wasn't just Europe that exploded into this sudden, but it was a gathering. And because the explosion caused the white supremacy, which caused the subjugation of the gathered, right? The gathered needs to understand that they were gathered from. And that yes, we contributed that. And once that begins, there's going to be maybe a little bit of, well, that's mine. But after the dust settles, there's going to be more of understanding. There's going to be more of a perspective on what's going on, and not just, you're separate, let's get together for the hell of it. But let's get together because we really understand each other, that this is really humanity. We're really all one under the sun. We're all the children of the sun. Yeah. There is no there's a God that made this system like a clockmaker winds up a clock. It's set to hit 12. There is no question this will end good. These hands will get 12 o'clock, no question. But in between all that stuff, a lot of seconds are going to go by. A lot of stuff's going to be going on. And the sun is here, has been left. In the most ancient of religions, it is the sun. It is the sun. The constellations are the first wall. They send their light, which is energy and information, because energy can be containing information. And whatever planets in our solar system are in front of those houses are called, those planets are in the house of. So the energy is translated through those planets. They believe the planets they knew about gravity back then. They were like, the planets are pulling us and holding us and pushing us. And they create things and make us who we are and pull our feelings. We're talking about gravity today on this planet. Imagine the gravity Mars is having on us, but we don't feel it. But everything is in place. In other words, everything is, do you understand what I'm getting at? There's a certain amount of gravity here, for the Earth's gravity here, for the sun's gravity here. And all of these things cannot move because the level of force. Have you ever held two magnets together, the same side, south and south pole, and they go, that force is what we're feeling in the world, because it's all magnets. All of this universe is a magnetic force, attraction and retraction, right? And so the planets are fixed in such a perfect way that they're always shining the same poles at each other. You understand what I'm getting at? Yeah. Like two magnets where they're always shining the same poles. Like you put it together and it never will go together. The force will never allow it to crack. So these planets are the same way. And this is happening to us. So We're in this solar system that's affecting not only itself, but affecting the other objects in it and keeping it, and therefore affecting the little life forms on top of it. And so the sun, though, seems to be in the ancient religions the master of all of it, because when he shines, we don't see any of these guys. Simple as that. When he shines, everything's gone. Just him. He alone is in the sky. And this gave the sun an authority in the ancient days, that because when he shines, right, you get seasons, you get plants, you get fruits, you get animals, the babies, you get everything that we know as life comes from that ball floating over our heads. And for some reason, he gets up and does his job every day without question. And he never complains.
Yeah.
And he knows in the winter he flows down south, and in the summer he comes back up north, man. And he keeps doing that over, and every time in the winter he goes down to a point where the days even. 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, December 21st, then December 22nd, 3rd, and 4th, it stays still. It doesn't move. It's always 12 hours. And then December 25th, 12.1 hours of day and 11.99 hours of night. And then it just starts decreasing night and increasing day. And he gets to the top in July. And then he goes down again and increasing night and decreasing day, and he goes into cycles. So the ancients thought, this is a god. He's obviously a god. He obviously has been doing this for us. He cares about us. And so they started worshiping it. But then some people came out and said, no, worship the thing that created it. Then you have conflict. Thus you have the divine conflict, my friend, the ancient fight. What do you worship, the physical object or the, and Socrates and Plato had this fight. Socrates believed that things were, Aristotle and Plato. Aristotle believed that things you see were just the image of the original thing from where it was, that the things on the earth were fragments. So as when you pick up a stone is just a fragment of the original real deal stone somewhere off in the universe. We're just seeing like light, like the sun is there. We're not seeing the sun. We're not touching the sun, but we feel its light. We feel this, we see the stuff it grows from, the light, everything. Well, Aristotle was like, dude, that's the way it is with physical objects too. They're somewhere else, like the sun's somewhere else, and we're just seeing their light, which is the stone or this. And Plato was like, no, dude, no, the stone's real. The stone is the stone. And that's inside the stone is its force. And that's the conversation about whether God is in man or God is somewhere else. Bro. We've all been having this conversation just in different ways. But man is trying to find out what the hell I am. What am I? What am I? Why do I feel? Why do I think? Why am I reflecting? Why are some men not reflecting? Why are the animals not giving a fuck? And how are they taken care of, right? Yeah. How are they not like lost? How does the lion know how to be a lion? How does the ant know to follow in line and not argue with his superiors? How do the bees know what flowers to go to make honey? How do beavers know how to make a dam? How do the fish know when to have sex and make babies? How does the moon know when to be full and when not to be full? How does the sun know to keep coming up? Why does everything know what it's doing? What the hell am I? What's going on? Right? So that's been religion. That's what religion is. What's going on? What is the meaning of all of this? What are we doing? What the hell is reality? Why are we here? Why am I waking up every day? What's the purpose? Obviously, the ox, right? And the lion, he knows his purpose. And the snake, he totally knows how to be a snake. He fucking sting me in a minute if I don't be careful. The shark will eat me. What am I supposed to do? Why do I not? And why do I have to teach this baby what to do? Doesn't he know what to do? He just came out of there. Like, it's just unreal. When the deer is born, it knows what to do, bro. When the horse is born, it takes maybe 10 minutes and it's up and running, bro. Can't be caught by predators.
Yeah.
There's no time to baby it. And like we stay like infants with big heads and babies nursing for like months. And then like we're like teenage. We don't even hit puberty till like 13 years old. Dogs are pubertying 3 months old already. They're ready to have sex, or 6 months or whatever it is. Like we don't hit puberty so late. We're so weird. Like what is wrong with us? Like why? Who are we? And then the ancients said caves, because we were brought here. We're not animals. We're not of this earth. We are stranded children of crazy astronauts that took a ride. They crashed. They survived and partied for a while. But after a while, the electricity went out. The batteries died.
Yeah.
And Venus was a comet and passed by. And when Venus passed by, before it got caught in the sun's orbit, it destroyed everything, bro. It flooded everything. It destroyed, covered it all up. It's all under hundreds of feet of mud. We'll never find a civilization. And the ones who survived hid in caves and painted horses and, you know, if only when we had the fields. And then some of them in Tennessee, Allen painted the spacemen. They painted themselves in their old spacesuits, and they remember. They can see it. You know, you see the painting of the helmeted people and the spacesuits and the guns they had. They painted it on the walls in Africa. They remembered. That's how old those are. Yeah. But there's some who just painted the horses. And then we came out of that stage again, and we came into the days of, you know, like after the flood. That's what happened. We came into the days of building cities again, building Babel and Abraham and all of these things. And now we're here. And now hopefully something else doesn't destroy us and send us back to the caves where you and I are going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you and I are rocking out.
Well, this is so nice because this really takes me out of my thought process. Becomes very mundane, doing the same shit over and over again, and then really being caught in this modern world and not pondering some of these things. Like I'm really glad we had this conversation because you kind of kicked me out of that. Like just thinking about where did I come from? Like where in my bloodline, like where did I come from? And how were these things gathered? And how were did these ideas come to be? And it's something I definitely should explore more because you get to a point where everything's so cyclical. You think that this is all there is. You get up, you know, you drink some coffee, you go on your fucking laptop. You know what I mean? And just, man,
they want you to think that way because it's easier for them to control us if we are like that. We can go to work, we can be supplied with a little bit of money and food, and basically the prophet, the priest, the mystic, all needed money and food. No one doesn't need money and food, right? They all needed alms or alm bowl they would hand out. So they were like, okay, the way to take care of this and make them all slaves is just make it so they have to work. Make it so that you can't loiter, you can't beg, you can't ask for alms anymore. So you have to work because even the priest needs to eat. And unless we give the priest permission to take alms, every mystic, every prophet will eventually have to come to the system and work. So we know this, right? We're also going to be sitting in the street as a mystic and a prophet, right? That's what the others chose to do. All right, you want forcing me to work? I'll just sit here cross-legged and meditate. And that's one way of doing it. You release yourself from all karma like that too. You get rid of all of your karma. That's why they did that. You go find a cave and go sit and meditate for the rest of your life. You have no more karma to pay for. All right, so at least for those years. All right, but that is the key, man. We have to find out who we are. And that's why we're bawling and screaming and going back and back to as a society. We're in a circle because we're not considering who we are. And that is a detriment to any person personally if you don't know who you are and you're trying to go be something that you're not. A lot of PMA will work, but after a while, we all know what our strong points are and what our weak points are. And if you continue to go after your weak points, they're going to get stronger, but they will never be as strong as if you had continued to go after your strong points. And they might actually get you into trouble because other people who those weak points are their strong points are going to be stronger than you.
Yeah.
And so we have to, as a species, understand that that's what we are. We're weak points and strong points, all of us. And what are our strong points as a humanity? Well, our strong points would have to be considered things that are different from the creatures, different from the animals, different from what our beautiful four-legged brothers are, because they're all the same, basically. They're either eating or being eaten, but they're all walking around on four legs, basically, with fur, and they're chilling, having their babies, doing their thing. All right, what makes us different than that? They even build. Some of them even build. The ants build 5-story buildings. The ants, beavers build dams. They even build. What do we do that's different? Well, we have philosophy. We talk. We try to understand our life. We make music. We create art. A lot of the human things can be classified, man. A lot of the human things can be taken out and shown and saying, yes, the animals do not sit and write symphonies. They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
So this is a human thing. And there's many things like that. And we need to examine those things to find out then who we really are and what we want to do. But we have in saying that, we always come across the problem about the other. We have a terrible problem about the other and about race and about religion and sexism and all that. You know, it's like that's holding us back. It's our hitch. Yeah. And I don't know if we're gonna pass that hitch this lifetime. We may have to do it again. But that's our hitch, man. We are different than the rest of the life forms on this planet, but we are neglecting. We're just like kids with people with amnesia that had kids that just kind of like sit around our house. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. That's really what it is. And the house payments due, and the bulldozers are pulling up down the block, and the grass is overgrown, the water's leaking, and the heater's not working, and on and on, and all the ice in the fridge is melting, so to speak, like the Arctic. I'm making a metaphor of us in the world, the planet. The ice in the fridge is melting up north, and you know what I mean? The fireplace is burning the living room.
Oh, yeah.
And we're kind of just sitting around like people with amnesia and a bunch of kids. And yeah, Mom, the living room's on fire. Really? That's nice. Hey, Ma, Pa, the icebox melted and there's water all over the kitchen floor. Really? Wow. What's on TV? I don't know. The TV broken too. Really? Wow. Tough, huh? Like, that's how we are. We're like, It's like, dude, wake up, do something. It's happening because you need to plug in the icebox. You need to put out the fire, grab some water. And like these are all metaphors for how we need to feel as a world. Yeah. We're in trouble. But we're fighting over religion. And when people find out that Christ and all of that, Christianity and all of that is multi-surfaced and has two surfaces. One is the man you're reading about, and the other one is the sun. They're going to, I don't know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen? It's going to unite everyone, really, because they're going to see that it was the sun all along. The S-O-N.
That would be nice.
Well, look, Matthew, Mark, Luke. You know about the scriptures, right? You grew up knowing about the Bible. You read. Yeah,
I'm a confirmed Catholic. I was confirmed when I was a teenager. But I'm not like really well versed in it. It's just something I did because that's when you were a white kid in the suburbs and your parents told you to do shit. You just did it without really thinking,
Yes.
So, and also, you know what else is weird about that is in Catholicism, when you confirm, it's your relatives like give you a bunch of fucking money. They're like congratulations, and so I was like, oh, if I stand up and say, yeah, I devote my belief to the Catholic Church, I'm gonna get fucking paid, and I was a shit little kid. Yeah, so it's wild to think that I got up in front of my whole family and I'm just like, yeah, sure. You know, I believe all this, and then I got paid for it. Like,
You got paid for it.
I got to buy a guitar amp, man. So, but
yeah, I mean, there's benefits
weird.
of it, right? You get.
It's weird. It's weird to think about in hindsight, especially.
But I mean, like, you know, that money meant something symbolically, though. Money is money, the moon. You know, it means something. It's also money is also the rays of the sun is associated with money too. Like, it's like the rays of the sun is associated. So like you got the rays of the sun on you. Like there's an old poem. I don't remember the name of it, but like the king orders a pie, and the pie is like a kid's poem, but like the pie is covered. It has like the pie gets cut open, and there's live birds singing in the pie, crows. I think it's 24 something, and like yeah, the pie gets cut open, and there's crows are singing inside. The king is so happy, starts counting the money out for, you know, because the person brought the great pie with the birds, and such a great trick.
Yeah,
and like the clothing hanging outside on the wire. It's all like about the sun, right? It's all of this stuff. The pie being covered is the morning before the sun opens, and the opening of the pie is the daybreak, the birds singing, and like everything we've been taught. Little Red Riding Hood is the sun in September when it's going down for the south, and it's always the reddest. And then it's like the reason she encounters a wolf is because one of the deacons in September of the month of Libra is the wolf, and it's said that the wolf attacks the sun, and so Little Red Riding Hood gets Little Red in the winter before the sun dies. It gets judged in the scales of Libra, and that's because the wolf, like a prisoner, brings the sun in, like a prisoner, like how the dogs grab a prisoner and bring him in. That's the wolf. But in the story of Little Red Riding Hood, they don't go all the way detailed into October, November, and December. They just said the wolf eats her. But in the real Prescott theology, the sun gets judged and goes down and dies. He gets crucified in the winter. That's really what you're reading about. Look, Jesus was real, but he imitated something that was an ancient religion, right? And it's called Prescott theology, but it was called many things. And it was about the sun. And the ancients understood the sun so well that they turned it into a character, a man. And he would go through fights to get back up into July. And this is what you've been reading about.
Yeah.
He would go through fights. And Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Luke begin in the month of December 25th, when the sun is born, when Jesus is born. Remember, he came to do everything to become the sun, because they were worshiping the sun. He came to give them a Hebrew sun they could see, and not the sun anymore, because you're not supposed to worship the sun. So he came to live as the sun, like the sun. That's why he did what he did, because Matthew, Luke are written in December. Mark and John are written in March. They begin in March. Mark and John begin when the sun is in March. Matthew and Luke when the sun is in December. So Matthew, the sun is born in December 25th, which is the winter solstice. So now we're going to start teaching. Maybe you'll want to cut this and edit it into some other show. The winter solstice, the soul. The earth, if I drew a circle around me, would have a straight line and a cross line called the equator. And then there's one coming down here. So in astrology, the earth has a cross. It's a cross. And then the sun has to be seen as rising. And so the sun rises higher in the winter above the equator. In the summer, I'm sorry, it's higher in the sky. And in the winter, it's lower. It only gets so high in the sky above the distant horizon. And so it's closer to the equator, the circle around me. So you can see in December, it's low. It's low in December. In the summer, it's high. So people have drawn a cross between the highest point of the sun and the lowest point of the sun, which is a cross like this. And the path of the sun furthest to the east and the path of the sun furthest to the west, which is another part like this. So it makes a cross like this. So that's the earth. So then they say in this cross, the sun travels along this circle. He's highest in July and he's lowest in December. And he moves this way. Well, for you, the audience, he would move this way, right? Going up. So December 25th is the birth of the sun, because that's the day that the day starts being longer than the night. All days before that. Yes.
Yeah.
You understand? That's why it's called the solstice, because he gains his soul. A soul is born. The sun is soul. He becomes a living soul, because now after that, there's more light coming. He gets one more second or minute of light than he did 3 days before, where there was one more minute or second of night. So now he's gaining light. So to say the sun is born, Jesus is born. And as the son is born, he gets older. And in January, he goes out away from his parents into what is called the wilderness, which is the zodiac, the unknown zodiac. Remember, he went through the zodiac once for that year, but since he died and he's born again, he doesn't know the zodiac anymore, right? They're all now unfamiliar to him. So they call it the wilderness. So the sun goes into the wilderness in January, where he is not shining a lot in the sky. He's still dim for most of the hours of the day, where the planet Saturn can be seen in the house of Jupiter. And Saturn is in the sky longer than the sun in January. So Jesus went into the desert to face Satan, to defeat Satan, because the sun goes into the desert at first in January to defeat Saturn. So he goes to defeat Saturn. So suddenly after January, he's shining for more hours than Saturn. So Jesus has defeated Satan. The sun has defeated Saturn.
They never taught me any of this shit in catechism, dude.
You're going to learn it now. Then he goes into the next house, which is February. And that is the month of Aquarius, where he's holding the water pouring out. That's why after he leaves the desert, goes to see the water bearer, John the Baptist, the Aquarius. The man he said, y'all worship the sun, I will be the sun. I am the sun. So he was he was showing them the path of the sun in his daily operation. So after he left the desert, like the sun leaves the desert, in the month of February, he went to see his cousin, John the Baptist, who acted like the star constellation, the second star constellation that the sun meets, which is Aquarius. After the sun leaves the desert and goes past Saturn, he enters into the house of Aquarius, the water bearer, who baptizes the sun with the stars that lead up to the next constellation. So the sun follows that stars that lead to the next constellation in the water. That's the original water, Jordan River for the sun. So Jesus was in the physical star Jordan River, which is supposed to be. And John the Baptist was the star constellation Aquarius, baptizing the sun. But it was important for John the Baptist to call him the Lamb of God, because after that, the sun enters into Aries, the ram. But a baby he is. So Jesus was called the Lamb, because a baby ram is a lamb, a little lamb. So he's the Lamb of God. That's why John the Baptist says, behold the Lamb of God. And God said, yes, that's him. I'm down with this. So he becomes the Lamb of God, like the sun. So it's all following the sun.
Yeah.
And then he starts teaching about planting and sowing and reaping, right? And he starts teaching about the gardener and how and farmhand, and that's because he's in the month of Taurus, the month of the bull, where there's in the month of. I'm sorry. I went ahead of myself. He starts teaching. That's after July. Before July, he starts teaching about things in twos. Two this went out. I sent you in twos. Did I not send you in twos? Because he's entering into the month of Gemini, the twos. And then after they went out and started driving devils out, he's known as the man. People come from thousands of miles away to see him, like throngs of people, because he's the sun in July, the Lion of Judah. He's the sun at its highest point. Jesus became the sun at its highest point, the Lion of Judah, where no one can stand and let Jah arise, let all his enemies be scattered, because you can't stand in July sun. Everybody seeks shade. He's in the sky the longest. None of the other constellations, which are the 12 houses, can even stand next to him. The 12 houses being the 12 disciples, the 12 houses being the enemies of the sun originally, who he vanquishes. None of them can stand. He's in the sun. He's in the sky from 6 in the morning until 9 at night, bro. That's the sun is just going down. He's the king, right? So this is it. But then they say the archers start shooting at the sun. These are the people conspiring against Jesus. And then the sun goes into July, August, September. And in September, the sun is judged, where in the scriptures it says that we have to turn him in. This has gone beyond. Because September is Libra, the scales. And the sun goes into Libra, where the sun is, like in Egypt, they judged him in the scales of Libra. And he's always judged as a haughty king. And so he gets judged, and the deacon of Libra is one of the wolves, and the cross, Cruz, and the wolf is the deacons of Libra. And they wait for the sun every year. And when he comes, they cruise him and they drag him. And they drag him into October, where he's in, I forget the month of October, what that is. But in October, it corresponds to this cycle. And then in November, in October, he's they're trying to judge him. They brought him in, they're trying to judge him. In November, he's sold out. There's 30 days in November, 30 moons, right? Muni, 30 moons. And he's sold out for 30 pieces of silver, the sun, for 30 days, just like Jesus sold for 30 pieces. And then December 21st is the last day that the sun is shining for himself as that period of sun. That time he's done, he's nullified, he's crucified, they call it. And then December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th are the only days on the calendar where the days remain even.
Wow.
And for thousands of years?
That's
What's
crazy.
going on? That's insane. Why is that happening? Why is that happening, bro? Why is that thing in the sky just constantly passing by, then the moon, then the other stars, for thousands of years? What's really going on? Like, that thing has movements. Every 11 years, it recharges itself. The moon is way too close to our planet. It should have been attracted by our gravity. Its size is way too big. You ever notice that sometimes it's really huge on the horizon?
Oh, yeah,
and sometimes it's really tiny. You can't even see it. It's like, what's really going on, you know? So that's what's really happening. And that knowledge I just dropped for you is a surface knowledge, man. It's all been about the sun. Every time you see an eye, every time you see the pyramid, on top, that's the sun's rays in the water with the sun on top, bro. The beard of the pharaoh, man. It's the sun on the water, and he's the sun, and this is the equator. You see, and the sun goes, once he passes the equator, man, it's Passover, bro. Passed over the equator. That's why it's for March 21st, man. The sun has come back to us. He has risen. The sun's come back. So Jesus did that. So, there would be a distinct, and a lot of the things he did in the book were done at night. That's why he moved at night, because he was doing the sun, but he said, I'm going to do it at night, like walking on water. They say, oh, really? It's the sun walks on water, because when it sits on the water, you can see the speckles, and it's like the sun is walking on water, but it takes the daytime for the sun to be out. And then Jesus had the other disciples walk on water with him, which would mean the constellations in their theory for the sun. It would mean that not only the sun would be seen shining on the water, but the constellations themselves too would have to be seen shining on the water. And that rarely, if ever, happens. I don't think anyone's really seen that. So his disciples walking on the water would have to, if it was really the sun worship, then it wouldn't have happened at night. It would have happened in the daytime. There would have been no disciples walking on the water. He would have been the only one walking on the water, and it would have been all hail and glory for that. But that's not what happened. They were on a ship at night, and it was bumping around in a storm. In a storm, there were no clouds. It was cloudy. How could it really? He was doing stuff that was like, everything he did was like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to turn it around so that you can't say that this is the same story. Actually, getting stabbed in his heart was turning it around, because all the kings that pretended to do it before him, like Osiris and Bacchus and Mithra, all these guys that they said, oh, they were Jesuses before him. This prophecy of a coming one has always been there, because the stars are always coming.
Yeah.
They're always coming. The houses are always coming. Perseus is always coming. When he goes around, Leo is always coming. These guys are always coming. It's the story of the coming one. But how is he coming? Okay, that's how he's coming. And so they always pretended to do it, but they were pretending because it's a play. Because Bacchus would hide in the great mausoleum, or like, or Marduk hid in the pyramid for 3 days. Didn't die, he just hid. And they came out and they went, okay, I successfully did it, and I'm the king, right? I rose from the dead, and here I am. But it was a play. It was like, but that's why it was important that Jesus got stabbed with the spear of Longinus, because they didn't want it to be a play. They're like, you're not going to make this a play, dude. You're going to die for real, and we're going to kill you. And that's why It's important in the scriptures that they stabbed him in his heart, because he really died. So for him, raising him from the dead was, Bacchus and him never claimed they really died. It was a play.
Yeah.
And so it killed Jesus. So they're like, you're not going to come back. So for Mary to come back and say, oh, this guy came back from the dead. And then for him to, all right, if you take it literally, for him to reappear to them was like, dude, we saw you die. This was not a joke. This was not a play. They really took you, dude. Like, they really killed you. We watched it, Your blood flowed like water, they said, right? Blood flowed like water. Your blood flowed like water, dude. How are you standing here? That's what Thomas was, right? Thomas was like, Jesus. He's like, you're a lookalike. Right? He's like, come on, dude. You're his brother or something, right? And even Mary was like, oh, dude, he had his hood on and I didn't recognize him. He took his, like, he had the old hood on, man? He came to her like this. He was like, dude, such and such, and she was like talking to a stranger, bro, and he took off the hood. She was like, what the hell are you doing alive, bro? So like, it's like that. That's what's crazy about that story. They don't tell us that. They don't tell us the history of the other guys that did it, and how it was a play, and how it was like a known thing, like, and then like how he got killed, he got crucified, he got murdered, and that he came back. So that made it important. But that went away, and the idea that he was imitating the sun as a man, and that was so brilliant, because like, whoa, dude, that's crazy. And that all went away. Now we all just know, oh, say Jesus' name and you'll be forgiven, But really, if you read the scriptures, he was talking about a lifestyle, not a confession. Mm-hmm. He was talking about a lifestyle, not a confession. He was talking about doing stuff for the poor, like how the Catholics are, or how the Catholics are saying they're they're supposed to be, how Pope Francis is saying he is and how he's acting, that's really how he's supposed to be. How it's supposed to be since the beginning. Just outwardly insane amounts of selflessness, but not to the point where you're killing yourself. You don't want to die in the mission, because you need to stay alive, right? You need to eat, you need to do your thing and be happy too, because then you'll be ruined. You'll be one of the ruined. So you have to sustain yourself, but it's a sustaining of yourself to sustain others is a serious thing, serious meditation. Sustaining yourself to sustain others is a serious meditation, man. That's a real meditation. And if that's passed on, what would we be? We'd have heaven on earth, but that sun worship stuff is really a thing that people need to know, because then they would stop fighting over color and Jesus and who he was and bloodlines. And I mean, it's important. All that stuff's important because it's true. It's true.
Right.
But the real story is not that. The story is God will arise, and he is the light of the world because he's the sun. Right?
Wow.
He's risen because he's the sun, dude. And it's what God left here to protect us, to give us. It's the symbol that God loves us. That's what it really is supposed to be. Like when you look at the sun, you're supposed to say, thank you, Father, that you left this heater.
Yeah.
Imagine we were left in a room and our parents just left us and there was no heater or air conditioning. We were pretty sad, right? It was like 95 degrees out. We'd be like, this sucks. Or it was like 30 degrees below zero. We'd be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So that's why. And then when the sun is out, plants grow. Like, holy moly, there's fruits on the trees. There weren't fruits 5 months ago. What's going on? This guy's in the sun, fruits in the trees. This guy's in the sky, animals to hunt. This guy's in the sky, rivers are flowing because the ice is melting. But when this guy goes away, dude, we're hungry, we're starving, we're cold, it's dark. The animals are howling, they're hungry too, they're gonna eat us. Please come back, whoever you are. Oh, great, you came back, you're the man. And so it went, Yeah. And then they were like, you must be a god. We're gonna talk to you, we're gonna say hello, and we're gonna appease you. And we're gonna show you, we want you to come back so much that I'm gonna kill this animal. I love this animal, but I'm gonna kill it because I can't stand being without you. In fact, I'm gonna kill my child. I can't. This is what happened to us. We just started wanting that sun so much. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty Dumpty together again. Humpty Dumpty's the sun. In the winter, the king's horses and king's men, when he falls, cannot put him together again. They're crying, screaming, warring because everything's gone. I'm talking about ancient days. Now we have light, right? We can turn the light on, right?
Yeah.
Turn the heat on.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about traditionally for these religions, the sun played a major role. And then the other minor planets, his seven friends and the 12 houses he lived in, the 12 gods he served. In fact, I'm transcribing the Hebrew Bible right now, believe it or not.
Okay.
I'm doing a version of the Hebrew Bible, and I just started. I won't say that I've been doing it long. I just started, but I'm doing it so that I'm reading a few of the versions, English versions, and I'm going back to the concordance for the Hebrew Strong's Concordance Hebrew words, looking up exactly what they mean, getting a feel by reading the definitions, and then using a word that I think is better appropriate for what this really Hebrew word is really trying to say for this verse.
Yeah. Because it's an English translation, the book that I grew up reading,
We all grew up reading.
Yeah, so
the English translation says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the first line.
Yeah.
Then it goes to another line, and the earth was without form and out height. Let's just take in the beginning, God's created heaven and the earth. So in is actually in the old Hebrew, in where they took that word was a word in the ancient days that meant more like the essence of shine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the essence of shine, the essence of a thing. But the essence of a thing is considered a shine, like the sun. And so it was more related to gold. In, the word in. The was more related to doubtlessness. This is doubtless. Doubtlessness. Beginning is beginning. The first thing. God, in the beginning, God is Elohim. God's. In the beginning, God, Elohim. Created is Hebrew word 1254. All these words got numbers. The word in is the word doubtless is 3588. The word Elohim is 430. All of them got numbers to make it easier. But the word created is 1254, which is selected, bro. Like a tree, like how a person selects a tree before cutting it into a carving.
Yeah.
So see the difference that is?
It's a little different,
selected.
Yeah.
And then the doubtless heavens is actually the Miseroth, which is 4216, which when you read it is actually works out to the constellations. The heavens work out to the constellations. And then it says and, which is again desire, and is a word significant desire, and is the essence of things pulling together. And because when you say and, is something else. So the word and is the essence of things pulling together, desire. And earth, period. But earth isn't a word. It's no word for earth. It means more like things that are firm, things that are together, things that are not separate and wish-washy. So to write it over would read something like this. Golden, doubtless beginnings. Elohim selected constellations, desiring firmness.
Wow. That's wild.
That crazy golden, doubtless beginnings. Elohim selected constellations, desiring firmness. So because eventually they do work, they send their signal down to this earth to work us. So they desired firmness.
Yeah.
So they could work. It's like, oh my God, so much you can get. So I'm going to do this. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far I'll get. I'll probably just get through the first chapter and just give it up. It's so hard,
it's
man.
A lot of work.
So
But that's cool. You're exploring this and exploring these ideas and just your ability to regurgitate them to a guy like me who, most of what I was taught are just these static things. And I never really questioned well, where did that came from? Where, just like Europe gathering all these different things. Where did this futon come from? Did this chair come from? We don't think about these things. We just think about, oh, well, how am I going to pay my bills? And, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And, I'm really glad we had this conversation because it's making me, you just realize how small you are in the scheme of things, universally speaking. And it
puts adventure in life again, in a sense. It puts the wonder back into life when you study all this stuff, to me, because I feel like life is an adventure. It'll never stop unfolding. Some people get that thrill from money, I guess, that money will never end, so they can just keep going and going and going and going and going. Yeah. But to me, I love studying what we're talking about, the esoteric knowledge, the knowledge of our quirky ways as human beings over the time. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating who we are. Trying to find out who we are, It's crazy.
Yeah, and
because we are something weird.
Yeah. And like as you were saying too, is if we had more of a knowledge of who we are and where we came from, it would be a more peaceful place. We would, that racism and that superiority that the Europeans feel like, we would all just be like, hey, we're all from the same place, we're all under the same sun, and that man, it
would heal a lot, wouldn't it? It would heal a lot. That knowledge would heal a lot. But you know what's the funny thing about that racism though? It was existing before Europeans. Europe learned it from older cultures, man. From I don't want to say from Europe. Europe learned it from the ancient cultures.
Yeah.
Because racism was the way that you separated yourself from the other tribes of the world. And I'll say this, and people be like, wow, that's like hard saying, but I'll say this. Racism is the way you separate yourself in the early days from the other tribes of the earth. And the reason you would separate yourself is because you felt you had different gifts to offer and you wanted autonomy, but your gifts were still available for offer. Okay? That was the original racism. So the Chinese were very Chinese. They wanted Chinese culture to stay Chinese, but they were willing to sail the earth and spread Chinese culture to others. The Ethiopians, the same. The Indians, the same. Everybody was pretty much like that, but they were willing to swap. Europe changed it in that Europe said, no. There is an escalation of men. Men didn't just grow equally. There's an escalation of men from monkeys to men. And we are the supreme apex of this escalation. This is new.
Yeah.
This is new. Okay, this is the spin that Europeans put on the ancient knowledge of race and intelligence and, your region and all of that. People knew that already. Black people, Asian people, we were dealing with that for thousands of years. European learned that in those lands. But the twist he put on it was to say, hey, since you guys told me I'm the last to come to this party, then guess what? I'm the smartest. I'm the last. So the youngest kid is always the one, And actually, for a while, that may have made sense to some ancient cultures. They may have been like, you know what, you're right. You're actually going to be we're going to teach you everything we know. This is great. This is the beginning of a new human. They may not have been seeing it, because racism, then this black-white thing didn't start until the Victorian era, when it was more like, the lighter you are in your castle, you must be royal. This was another thing that came from the African lands and the Indian lands. The royals were in their palaces all day. They didn't see the sun. They worshipped the sun, and they stayed. So they were lighter. Even though you had a lot of melanin in you, you would appear brown skin if you stayed in the sun with the next melanated man, because your brother is chocolate brown skin. You've been staying in the palace all day. You don't have that chocolate brown skin anymore. Your skin is more pale. So this began to be a signifier of the ones who didn't have to work because they were lighter. And if you didn't have to work, obviously you were royal. So lighter class people began being associated with royalty and the gods. That's all that happened.
Wow.
They were black. It's all that happened. It was blacker than black people too. That was just not being in the sun all day. So their melanin weren't being as activated. So they were turning lighter, maybe lighter brownish color. So that's lighter. And they had kids that they kept in the house all day. And the royals kept their children in the house all day. And these children turned out with less interaction with the sun. So this was a huge symbol. Lightness became a huge. So the European man, naturally taking that knowledge, looked at himself and said, well, I must be the finest of the fine.
Wow.
You understand? I must be the apex of this royal divine human lineage. You understand?
That's wild.
And so they looked for that. Yes. And so it got propagated that white is right. If you're white, you must be pure, because it was associated with the kings, and the kings can be nothing but pure because they're in their palaces all day, and they're light skinned because they're not in the sun. So white is right. What are you talking about? It's just like it was obvious, but when you look at it, it wasn't race. It was because they were hidden from the sun, not because they were born white. It wasn't that. It was a sun thing. Now it's a race thing. Now it's like, And there are Europeans who you put them out in the sun, they will turn brown. And if you leave them in the palaces, they will turn white. And that's what happened to the Victorians. The Victorians said, we are blue bloods. We don't go out in the sun, and we're so white you can see our veins. We have blue veins sticking out of our skin. And that's where you get the word blue bloods from, because you could see the blue veins. And that is because they don't go out in the sun. They're royals. They don't have to work in that terrible, under the god. They don't work under the god. You understand the symbolism? They don't work under the god. They're not slaves. They view it like we don't have to go to the god for help. We are independent of the god. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm linking? Because the sun is the god. You have to go to the god for help. I too must be a god, because I work independently of the God. I don't have to go under the sun. In fact, you go to it for me and bring it things from it for me. Oof. And so they said, and at that point, Europe must have been like, but we think this way, and we are in fact actually in charge of the known world. We are in charge of India. We are in charge of most of America, with the colonies. We are gods. And the white race is the God, isn't he? And this set ablaze, like, yes, we are the gods. And because we're white, because we're sequestered, because we have control. And that happened only 300-400 years ago. So it's still fresh. It didn't happen 5,000, 2,000 years ago. It happened, it's still fresh. So it's like, whoa. So we have to break that. We have to say, look, dude, this is all a huge mistake. And it can be unpacked and unpacked on the table and show you the mistake if you just give it a while. Sure, it's going to take a couple hours, but it can be unpacked and you can understand it as a thing. And then you can do what you need to do to change it. But if you don't unpack it, it's too tightly packed. You can't see what's inside the box. It just looks like a square box, nice and neat. Pick it up, put it in your pocket, and go along with it. Nice and neat. You can't see that there's a monster in this box. And this monster is not... so, hey man, that's a long way around, but that's what's going on. That's what's really stopping everything. It's that knowledge alone, that it's the sun. It's always been the sun. That whiteness was about lack of the sun and not race. And that all the religions is because people wanted to monetize the worship of the sun. And that's it. Wow. When we learn that, then we will understand that we are all one people. And this is all the human team human, race human, team human. Yeah. And maybe then the aliens will show up. Because we'll finally understand that.
Wow, this has been really enlightening. I really appreciate it. And the way you explain it too, man, you should record. Well, I'm going to put this out there, but you should You should find a way to maybe record that as a lecture or something, because I'm going to share this, but the reach is only so far. I'm just a guy.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good, my brother. It's all good. I think that we're all shining at the right moment that we're supposed to be, and you're shining at the right moment, man. This is gonna do something. Nothing's ever done for no reason. The time we're spending together today, I think, is gonna reach the right people, man. We didn't we did plan this conversation, but the conversation it's really a good one, and I think that there's always a purpose for that. It's always gonna find its home. It's gonna find its ears, and the right people are gonna hear it. You heard it, and you have now that knowledge, which is great, which is now you can take it like a baggage and say, hey, let me unfold this for you and give you an idea about what really might be happening. If we can just get to that.
If anything, it just, I don't know how to vocalize this, because there's a lot to unpack, but if anything, man, my brain is like just farting right now, but it makes more sense. Things make more sense when the way you explained it. It's like, it's just a big I don't know. I'm not being very eloquent right now, but
No, I hear you. It blows the mind when I first started gathering this information. I was like, Oh man. Oh wow. Like, whoa. Oh my God. It never ended. It just went underground. It never ended. It just turned into a myth. It never ended. It just turned in sun worship. It never went away.
Yeah.
And the idea of the God that created the sun never went away. It just turned into this amalgamation of stories about a hero rising to save the day. And I didn't even know that when I wrote Rise or anything. I was a kid, right? I didn't know any of those concepts, but you can see if you listen to Rise that how those concepts were affecting me. And I didn't even have those concepts. I just had the overall conceptual understanding that life was about rising. Life was about being the hero for yourself and others, and rise up. You've got to rise. But that's all that sun stuff, all that Priska theology. And so it's so affecting that even a kid at 20 years old that didn't know anything about it was like save your mind. That's all like now I know that's all Hermes Trismegistus and Thoth and the mind. They all going about the mind and mind, man. It's like, but that was the ethos. That was in the ethos. It was in the ethos with Bob Marley. It was in the ethos with the whole thing, HR, you know. So it's always around. Someone just has to sit down and tell us and say, this is what it is. And once they do, we'll see it like you saw it. You'll be like, I knew this all along. Of course he rises. Of course. Oh man. But the knowledge that it's the sun will unite it. That will do it all. That will bring it all together. That it's been the sun all along, that it's taking care of us and comforting us and providing for us because a creator left it there and left this system for us to do free will. And we can fuck up this party, or we can have a really amazing party. Yeah. We've been moved into the best mansion ever with the best heating system, the best air conditioning system, the most sweetest foods you can imagine. And we can either louse it up or we can make it a really awesome time. And the owner doesn't even have to show up. Maybe he's never going to show up. But whatever, let's just have a great time. This is a cool place we live in. And, you know, like that. Why aren't we thinking like that? We're so crazy. We're wasting the whole thing. This should be a total party. We're wasting a safe party. Okay, you're not killing people. Okay, safe party. But a party, you know, you're 70 years, you're born here. Welcome to the party, dude. You know, it's like, let's just like live. You know, like, okay, it's spiritual, safe party here where you're safe. No, there's no worries. There's no crushing feelings of like you're nothing and you're worthless and you get a job or else you're not a man and you don't have no money. And, you know, like there's none of that, man. There's so much wealth, bro, that you're just going to live 80 years anyway. Relax, you know, get some knowledge, learn something and interpret it in a way that we can benefit from. That's a good job. Do that. You know, and yeah, cool. Give me some knowledge. Great. I'll read this. Hey, did you guys ever think about like, oh yeah, we never thought about that. Great. Let's make the world even better. And so it's not, you know, it's so simple. We're overthinking this. We're completely overthinking the simple thing we've been given, the simple mechanism. Maybe we're not. Maybe people are just like, dude, it's so simple. We can't. Maybe they're just some really heinous people that exist. They're just like, dude, this is so simple. We can't let them have this. I can't sleep at night. I can't sleep at night thinking that, you know, my trees are growing fruit and people are just picking from them. It just bothers me. I don't water the trees. I don't, you know, those trees were there before I was here, but I bought this land, damn it, and they shouldn't pick those fruits. You know, that kind of mentality, you know, it's like that got pervasive somehow. People had to lock stuff down and then sell it back to us in little increments when it really is all available. But they said, oh, no, it can't be all available because that would mean that everyone has self-control. And how would we get How would I sleep while my worker tills the soil? If he feels he has self-control, or if he does have self-control, he won't come to work. He'll be at home eating his fruit, having his self-control. Well, I can't let him have self-control. He's got to work. So worker, so military man, go gather all the resources around this town, sequester them into that silo, and then we're going to put a price on it all. So nobody has self-control. Everybody has to turn to the silo. And the silo, each grain is now 1 penny a grain. So you want 100 grains? I need 100 pennies. I need $1. But the grains were free. But no, they're not free anymore. And you can't grow grains either. You can't grow grains, and they're not free anymore. And if you pick them up, you have to turn them in. And they're a penny each now. And this happened. Somewhere along the line, some nasty dudes did this, and they fucked the party up.
Yeah.
Fucked the whole party up, dude. You know, like the bikers came in, a bunch of teenagers here. Pour some alcohol in that punch, will you? Hey, baby, come here. You know, like, hey, dude, give me your money. You know, that they rode in and fucked the whole party up, dude.
Yeah.
Now they got us all slaving and hooking for them. It's a pimpocracy, not a democracy.
Yeah.
You know?
And just the way you framed it, you said it's so simple. Someone wouldn't just let it be simple, you know?
Yeah.
Like
they couldn't stand it to be simple. Yeah.
And that's just so sad.
Yeah. It's wrapped up in OCD, people having problems controlling an OCD feeling. Originally, somewhere way back along the line, someone had a deep or group of kings, a group of barons, a group of people who were marauders, had such OCD feelings. I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, with a lot of things, but I control it. Jeffrey Dahmer had OCD. He didn't control it.
Right.
So somewhere along the line in history, someone had some bad OCD shit happen and just started taking everything and just going, okay, you want it, you got to come through me. I'll sell it to you. But then people started accepting it. You know why? Why people accept it? And this is how they got us, bro. Here's the whole key. Here's the key in the lock. Here's the key that turns the lock for them. Here's the key right here that turns the lock. We are lazy. We'd rather have a guy grow the food than grow the food. We'd rather have a guy cook the food than cook the food. We'd rather have a guy, you know, and we're willing then to work for the money it takes to pay for others to do things, so that we can work for the money to pay for others to do things, to work for money, pay for others to do things, while they sit on top providing everything and we die. And they just go, okay, great, new puppet, and they're puppeteering, and we work and pay for everything. Work. It's just a crazy thing, man. When you think about it, it's so excruciatingly, relentlessly unnecessary that
it's mind blowing. And the way you just framed it, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, well, I'm not necessarily part of the solution either. But
we are, because, you know, we're thinking independently, brother. I think I know enough about you to think that you are an independent thinker, and that you are seeking an independent thinker. You're a seeker, which is the highest in my spiritual world, the highest form of spirituality. Seeker. Only thing higher is the finder, the one who achieves the Godhead, who finds it and says, hey, maybe he's not higher. Maybe he's lower now. Maybe he's low. He's support now. Maybe he becomes the lowest, the foundation, right? So the seeker is the guy. you're a total seeker, bro. And I think that that's what more people need to be. A lot of people are just like, yeah, you're mod, okay, I'll be mod. Yeah, you're hardcore, okay, I'll be hardcore. You're reggae, I'll be reggae. Yeah, you're whatever. You want to run for office? Maybe I'll run for office too. You want to be a teacher? I'll be a teacher. How about a nurse? Yeah, I'll be a nurse. It's like, wait, and just really, the Egyptians used to say, know thyself on all their temple walls, somewhere, if not right across the top. And the Greeks too, they would write, know yourself. But the other part you wouldn't find out until you can graduate is so you can control yourself. You can control your destiny. This was the part you wouldn't find out till either you were smart enough and some teacher had a few drinks with you and told you, no, man, this is all about control, self-control, controlling your destiny. Yeah. So you can help others. Most people don't get that.
Yeah, and
once you go to a university, you go to higher schooling, or like you have the benefit of having really amazing parents that were exposed to that kind of stuff. No. Most the average people ain't hearing that knowledge. You know? They like go out and survive, sink or swim,
Yeah, and in my 20s, I spent a good 10 years just pouring booze down my throat, So, and so I'm kind of trying to play catch up right now because there's as much as I want to say I know myself, I still got a long ways to go. But I want to be very open-minded, and I want to have conversations like this that'll provide new information that'll make me think a little bit differently, perspective shifts and whatnot, and that'll take me, as I'm going on my journey to think differently. And you know what I mean, and that's why I'm, when I first started this podcast, I just wanted to talk to cool people, but it ended up being after talking to Norwood and people that have way different life experiences from me, it became just a doorway into being able to perceive life in a different way. And I'm today was great, man. I really appreciate you, dude. I have to pee so bad, dude.
It's awesome, bro. Awesome talking with you, Neil. Yeah, so guys, I did a new record called Meltdown, and it's out everywhere right now on iTunes, all over the internet. It is my first solo record as far as rock, and I really do want you guys to download it. I think it's a fun record. This is the cover of the album. Oh, where are we? That's the cover of the record, and it's pretty recognizable, so you'll see it. And there's a good slew of songs on there. There's 12 songs for you guys. I think that it's really, really cool. That's the cover. And then like I said, there's, I don't know why that's not working.
I'll put links in the YouTube description too. So
yeah, cool. There's 12 songs, man. It's all hardcore, all really cool stuff. And I think you guys should really check it out. Okay, so cop my new album, Meltdown, okay, by Israel Joseph. And I appreciate you guys listening and supporting all of us, including Neil. I think I'm speaking for Neil as well.
Oh yeah.
Supporting musicians and all of us trying just to use our spirits and our feelings to convey what we're feeling in the hope of helping others. And I thank you guys so much. So hopefully we'll see you on the road. COVID thing will pass. We'll do some awesome shows. Keep rocking and never give up, man. One love.
There you have it. Hey, thanks, man. Woo.
You got it. Thank you. It was awesome. I just want to say, you guys, Neil is an awesome person. I know him personally as well. And he's such a fantastic guitar player. Phenomenal. The guy doesn't even think when he's playing. It's just all amazing, stuff coming to him. And I just want you guys to go check out Downtown Brown whenever they're playing live. And keep watching Neil's show, man. He's the man. I got my eye on Neil. Neil's the man. He's got a great show.
Thank you,
He's
man.
He's going to go far. Well, I'm looking forward on Sirius Satellite soon.
We'll see what happens, man. I'm stoked that I'm learning, like you said. And I just want to, I'm going to be 40 pretty soon here in February. And I want to have the rest of my days be a little less of me wondering what, and just kind of how do I put this? I just want to take it easy. I want to be a little less hard on myself,
Yeah, please do, man, because it's a frame of mind that you can achieve just by wanting it. Well, we don't understand that like there's two or three parts to who we are. It's the guy who people see, our persona, our dude who people see. Then there's the dude who's thinking for the dude who people see, right? If you can follow me. Then there's the dude who suddenly, when the dude who we think we are is thinking for the person who people see, suddenly appears out of nowhere and vetoes a bad idea.
That happened to me 2 days ago.
Independently of how hard or whatever we are into it, or how the eruption of feeling feels so good in us, something called the second thought goes like this, and then goes back. And then if it's a good idea, it'll support it. So there's a few aspects to our psyche that we're not taught of, and we're not being taught to look at. We're not being taught to, as they say, unpack. We have the persona, which is what people see, the me, the person who's thinking for, and the I. The I is the one who is somehow going, dude, bad idea. The feeling, the intuition, the intuition, the I is part of us. It isn't a foreign thing. It's here somewhere. And how do we access the I? Because the I knows everything. The I is like the axis in the Jimi Hendrix song. He knows everything. Because he always is the right fit. Like, you ever go like, man, I had a feeling that was, or I see what you're saying, or man, I knew I should have done, that kind of thing. The I knows everything. You know when you should have. So how do we separate these things? What do we do to go inside to say, okay, persona, you're here. Okay, me, you're here. And hi, I want to meet you, guys, for a minute. And this is what so I think that's the quest for both of us, for all of us, to find the I within. And when you find the I within, I think that I lives in everyone else. And then you'll find everyone else. And then you'll be able to relate directly to the source information to everyone else. And it won't be a plan. It will just be happening. And because you have reached into the pool, and now you're able to pull water from the pool and hand it, as opposed to being far from the pool. And so you've reached into the I pool. The pool is the I. And you've reached the I, you've reached the pool. So now you're able to dip water into the I and pull it and hand it to others. Hand it to yourself. But before reaching, so there's that thing I think we really need to contact, man. And I think it's going to help. Like, it's going to help us personally. It's going to help us as a species to know this I, to know what is this thing. Now it's like going to space. That's a project.
Yeah.
That's humans coming together and throwing money at a project, like going like, we must invent things to study what the I is. But I think it can be done. They started in the 70s, and there was Curlian photography, and there was all sorts of stuff that showed that there was an aura and a spirit, and there was something else happening. Anyway, that's what that is. The I, to separate the weird threesome in us. Actually, I think there's a few more too. There's a few more hanging in there, hanging around in there. Right. You feel them, right? They're always like, they're weird. They're like orbiting like little like electrons. But the main nucleus is those guys. The persona, the dude who people think we are, dude who's maintaining that dude, and the dude who we really are. Actually, yeah, there it is. The four. That's it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
There's something right before the I. It's the dude who people think we are is the persona. The guy who's maintaining that is the me. That's the dude who's like the actual foundation of the persona. The persona being the spirit, the shining spirit. The me is the foundation of it. But who's controlling the me is the self. So there's the self, the me, and the persona who people see. So the self is controlling the me. He's driving the me, and he thinks the me is awesome. I've got a me car, and my me car shines with beams of headlights. That's called my persona, and I'm so bright, bro, and I'm speeding around. But the guy in the backseat driver is the I. And the I is not drunk. And he's not high. And he's not filled of society's mad quest for conquering. He's just sitting back there going, dude, you're going way too fast.
Oh, man.
Dude, you know this is not right?
Yeah.
Dude, you know you just crashed that thing, right? And that dude's there, dude. And we're like, fuck you, dude, fuck you, dude. But we know he's there, dude. And we hear him. Who is that guy? Who is that guy? That's who we need to go there. That's the I.
Yeah.
That's the I. He knows it knows everything. And it is trying to communicate, but we're like a radio that's broken or not fully extended its antenna, so we can't really hear the transmission. We're hearing today's news. Something happened in other news. Corn is good for you. We're like hearing just black, like little pieces.
Yeah.
And that thing can, if we just extended the antenna of the self, then we would hear a steady transmission of the I. In today's news, Neil was a great person when he helped that lady across the sidewalk. Blah, blah, blah. Neil gained, blah, blah, blah. Neil should feel good about himself. Blah, 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 you know, instead of hearing Neil was it's a bad day today. It's raining. It's really car crashing. Everything's going. And Neil's got sitting at home. It's really, you would hear more of the positive PMA I who knows the future is not bad.
Yeah,
it's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And you would hear that transmission. Instead, we keep switching to the me. The me keeps interrupting. His radio station is stronger, man. He's got it going on. He's got powers. He's driving the me. He's driving the self, and he's driving the. You hear him from the self. The self's radio station is too powerful, bro. He's like a powerhouse, bro. And he's driving the self. He's driving himself. He's driving the me and the persona. And he's going, fuck with me, Mr. I. Right? He's like, I got you overpowered. Crank. He's like cranking the station, bro. But we have to find it. We have to say, through all of this noise, I am the I. I'm not this radio station controller. This guy is running my radio station crazy. He's playing the weirdest stuff at the loudest volumes. I can't stand it. I have to take control of my radio station. But right now, we're locked in the office. And he's the one on the front going, WISI, RAL, WNIEL, coming at you live from Neil Station, Israel, and it's like, dude, that's not me, I have to get out of this office. But sometimes we can scream out to him, dude, you can't say that on the radio. And he goes, okay, you're right. I shouldn't have done that. That's right, you're right. That's really us in real life. We do it all the time. We have second thoughts. That's us. That's the real us yelling from the back office because he's so trapped. Don't do that on the radio. I'm seriously, I don't want to come out there because I'm scared. You're crazy. I'm locked in my office because my employees. But realistically, don't do that on the radio. And that's who we gotta come out of our office, bro.
Yeah.
That's the I.
That's such a great analogy because I recently did like a social media cleanse, and I really felt like I lost a sense of identity, but I really didn't lose who I actually am. I lost that persona. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I felt lost because of it. But the more time I spent with just myself, I realized, hey, like I have a whole bunch of feelings and I have a whole set of ideals and I have all of these things that exist without me putting it out there for everyone to see. And it was a really good exercise. Also because I have addictive tendencies as well. But like everything you're saying, these analogies ring really, really true for me right now. It's intense. This is intense, man.
Awesome, man. Awesome. It's a sense of almost detoxing from what it used to be. Like you're hooked up on a drug and you're one way. Like, I don't do drugs or whatever, but it's like, okay, you're on coke and you're like, and all of a sudden you come off the coke because you can't get it. And now you're just this dude. It's just like, realistically, you're this dude. It's just like, yeah, man, what? Like, you're not even that dude. And it's like, whoa, and then you start making new friends, or like you start losing friends maybe, or you start like seeing things differently. Like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I was too erratic before and I didn't really notice that's fucked up, dude. Like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, like that shit happens to us, bro. It does. Whether you're on coke or not, whether you're on drugs or not, whether it's because of drugs or not, it could be social media. I was making that reference because you say you got off social media. So it's like extracting yourself from social media has made it so almost like you're detoxing from social media. You're becoming who you are off social media, off drugs, off social media. You're becoming who you are, and which is great. Now, not saying that it's not good to go take a little social media sometimes, you know, like you know, have a drink and stuff, man. But when you feel like you're being consumed, or whatever it may be in your life, you're being consumed, you have to come off it, because you become then who you are, and you also show yourself that you're a badass, because you're like, dude, I got complete control. You know, I can go out in the ocean and swim all the way out there, and I come home when I know it's time to come back. When I'm not good, when it's not right, you know.
Yeah, and
that's the way of the shaman, you know. It's the way of the shaman.
And it's weird because I had no idea how addicted I was to the shit until I walked away, and then I was like, oh, it's like this was consuming my life, especially like once I got into quarantine and whatnot. But I mean, that's another conversation for another day. But yeah,
my brother.
To be the I, there's nobility in that. I want to go deeper into that, attempting to do that, you know?
That's blessed. That's awesome. I mean, there's a fire lit in me, a fire lit in you about this conversation we just had. I think it was a really amazing one. And I think that it's true. It puts things in perspective. It puts the eye on the prize, so to speak. You know, you know, there's a goal now. Like, this is what I need to be. I need to find the eye. I need to find who I really am so I can know. And when you remember the movie The Matrix, when in the end, I don't know if you ever saw The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And like when he... you know, when he's all through the movie, man, this is what the movie's about, the sun. The movie's about the sun. Keanu Reeves is the sun. He starts off as the sun in winter. And if you remember what I told you all about, you can see how he's the sun, right? But after he dies in that building, right, as the sun dies on December 21st, when he died in that building, when he was born again, when he woke up and he saw those bullets coming at him, and he stopped them, and he took one out of the sky and he looked at it. You know, he, in that movie, metaphorically found the eye, because the eye is what enabled the monk to sit in the 60s and light himself on fire and not move. Right? That's the cover of the Rage album.
Oh, yeah.
That really happened. And the eye is so deep that Neo realized that not even bullets could hurt him. You see, the movie was a symbol. The fact that the bullets stopped and he was able to control them was meaning that it's to say to you, nothing can kill your eye. It's beyond flesh. Nothing. The bullets didn't have to stop at that point in the movie. They could have kept going. They could have shot him. He could have bounced off of him. They could have. What they're really trying to show you is that once you know yourself. Remember, the movie for Neo was the Egyptian epitaph. Know thyself. That's what Morpheus kept trying to tell him. Believe. It only works if you believe.
Wow.
If you know who you are, Neo, you must know, I know who you are, but you, Neo, must know who you are. Know yourself. It was all Egyptian. And until you know yourself, you won't be able to jump from this building to the other building, Neo. But because I know myself, and I know myself so well that I know this reality does not really exist before me, because I am the essence. Life is the essence of life. Buildings are not before life. I know this so much that I will now jump off of this building and I will not fall, because life is greater than buildings. And so they showed that in this movie in a real way. That's a concept throughout history. The ancient philosophers like we talking now, but they actually did it when he jumped off the building and he jumped to the other one. And he said, not do it. But this is supposed to happen in your mind from your from your left hemisphere brain to your right hemisphere brain. That's what those buildings were, bro. And in that movie, he was standing in the right hemisphere brain, the brain of the two of them were standing on top of the right hemisphere brain, the brain of logic and do and work. And to cross the Red Sea between the two halves of the brain to get into the left hemisphere brain is to be an artist and to be a free thinker. The left hemisphere brain is free thinking and artists and inspiration and intuition. And there's a divider between the two lobes. It's like the Red Sea. And the two buildings in that movie represented the two lobes of the brain. And he was telling Neo, you must jump from one building to the other. But really what that was saying to you was you must come from being a right brainer to a left brainer. You must open your mind in order to know yourself. You must cross over the lobes. You must stop being a worker dependent on the system. Give it up, fail, be completely burned alive, destroyed, and then from those ashes will rise who you really are, independent of everything.
Wow. Dude.
What the movie Matrix was about. Woo. And when in the end, he woke up and found his eye. And he was, I get it, Morpheus. Remember, he said, what is he doing? And Morpheus said, he's beginning to believe. That's what that meant, that he's beginning to understand that this is all after me. I am life. This table is because I am alive, not I am alive because of this table. Therefore, I am powerful over this if I can only believe that. And that's what all the ancient masters did. That's why some of them were able to fly or disappear or hit by a sword and not be cut, because they understood the mystery of the life. That we are not life. We are not physical. Life is before physical. And therefore, we are life, not this. And when the masters understand that, they do masterwork. That's what Jesus understood. That's why he was able to heal the blind and all that. He was life. He wasn't living. He was life. Neo wasn't living. He became life itself. Yeah. And that's what we have to do. That's what our quest is to become life itself, so that when others deal with us, we are now giving, because life only gives. It's alive. It can't die. It can't ever exist or give a dead energy. If you become life itself, then you are giving life. And this is the movie Matrix is about this. But I just used it as a reference because it's like waking up the way Neo did in that movie is what we have to do. But he only woke up to a series of failures, through a series of tests of his personality, of his rejection and non-belief, because the oracle in that movie is the sun, the woman who gives him the cookie. Now, this is all me. I wasn't taught this, right? But this is, you study all this, you watch this movie, you see what's going on. The oracle is the sun. The cookie is the sun. Remember the part I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The oracle is the sun. It's car alarm going off. And the cookie is the sun. The cookie is the sun. He went to see the sun. He's a man and he went to see the sun. Morpheus represents God, the creator. And he goes to see the oracle, who is the sun. He goes for the sun's ultimate. I told you about the sun. It's the ultimate God. He is the God that is the life giver.
Yeah.
And when she goes to him, she gives him a cookie. right? But people say, what does that cookie mean? Well, why should give him a cookie? Look, when he went there, he was powerless as a rising sun, as a rising man. And he went to see the sun as a risen sun, an oracle. Morpheus told him, whatever she tells you is for you and you alone. I do not know what she is saying. When he came out of the room, he had a cookie. And the cookie was the message. The sun imparted its knowledge to Morpheus. That's what that meant. The sun imparted its knowledge to Neo. Neo was now endowed. Neo became the Lamb of God. He became Aries, the ram, endowed with the sun's power, the oracle, and the cookie around the thing, the disc, was the sun. And that was the symbol that the sun is light. And so when he walked out of the room with the cookie, he faced who? Morpheus. Who said what? I didn't know anything. I don't know what she's going to tell you. But he walked out of the room with the cookie. And so that Morpheus meant something. I mean, the sun is shining. To God, it means something. The sun shining to God means something. And Morpheus with the cookie Neo with the cookie to Morpheus meant Neo was the chosen one. The sun had imparted she was baking cookies. That's her thing. She's a mama. She has the robe on. She's baking cookies. The sun has given you its power. You understand? And so God, Neo, didn't need to know what the sun said, if he was the one or not. All he needed to do was see he walked out with the sun.
Wow.
Yeah. So Morpheus knew. He was like, I don't give a fuck what you're saying. You have the sun in you. It doesn't matter what you believe or what you think you are. You're failing, Mom. I don't care. When you walked out of that room, you had a cookie. In the physical form, Mama gave you a cookie. Or the Aquarius gave you a cookie. That's her favorite thing. Or in the sun theology, the sun is in you. You're one with the sun. The sun has blessed you with its ray. And that's why after Morpheus walks away, he takes the cookie and he bites it and eats it because the sun is in him. It's the holy cake. It's the body of Christ.
Wow, I gotta watch The Matrix again. Yeah, with this. It's so deep. Yeah, with this newfound take, man. I gotta get going, but
all right, brother.
I like how we attempted to end sort of, but then it just went into that. It just went in again. Oh my!
It's like the ocean. That's what knowledge is like.
Yeah,
the knowledge is like the ocean, man. It just keeps coming in waves, and as long as you stay by that shore, you're gonna get more and more waves. You gotta physically get up and go. Okay, the cup runneth over. King David said, "My cup runneth over." He said, "Blessed,
indeed,
my cup runneth over." Which means that's what this means. We're at that point.
Yeah, I'm. My mind has been blown probably like 12 times in the last 3.5 hours. I appreciate you, man. I got to get going, but yeah, check out the new album. Check out Meltdown. 12 new songs on Spotify. I'm gonna put a link in the description below. And thank you, Israel Joseph, for being on the program. Yeah. Woo.
You got it, brother. It was awesome. Neil, thank you for having me on. All the best to you and to everyone out there listening. Keep your PMA. We got to get together. Life is about love and not about hate, y'all. Please stop the hate. Develop your empathy. Grow an empathy, a heart of empathy, and we're going to make it. Ja Rastafari.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, Neil. Thank you, brother. It was awesome. Let's do this again. Let's do a few of these.
Loved it, man.
All right, my brother.
Cool, man. Have a good one.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
I'm going to hit the button.